thing I needed to do.
To be an indie means we buck a system that doesn't want us. To be a fringe filmmaker means we don't do it for them. We do it for ourselves. To be an outlaw on the fringe means we'll die before we fail. Be an outlaw.
That is definitely a cool graphic, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think so too.
How's it going, man? We're live.
Yay, it's good to see you. I missed
Good to see you as well. You've been busy, man.
I have been busy. It's crazy. I've been so... I've been busier than the $2 whore on Buck Night, Joe.
Wow, that's pretty damn busy. Libby, just so you know, poster. Yeah, this whole reverse camera thing.
Yeah, I know.
It's back there.
It's there. We promise. I can see it. Everybody's here. The gang's all arriving. Libby, what's up? Jack, yo, buddy. Brandy, awesome shirt.
It is going to be an awesome night.
Ron? Terry, Drone Jesus. Hey, look at that across the bottom of the screen. https://www.buymeacoffee.com/RP Indie Brigade. You know, we've got a lot of awesome merch available on the RomeroPictures.com website, but, you know, we realize it's a pandemic. We realize that funds are tight for a lot of people. So if you like what we do, if you've learned anything from the Indie Brigade, if you believe in us, like hanging around, want to help us, keep hanging around, go to buymeacoffee.com/RP Indie Brigade and go ahead and buy us a cup of coffee. It's like there's 3 different tiers or something. It's super easy, super simple. We're thinking about adding some subscription services there, but you know, that feels like a little weird to me. So what's up, Sean? It's been a good week. It's been a great week around here. We had a great show last week. And I think we've got another great show this week with Miss Eileen Dietz and Mr. Joseph Illidge. How cool is tonight's show?
Very cool. And no, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it, man.
Huh?
The poster. You're saying thank you.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, man. Matt, good to see you. Dino, love you, pal. Jack says he's going to buy some merch with that stimulus check. Dustin, we are doing well. We are safe and healthy. Hope the same for you and yours, and we hope the same for everybody out there who pays attention and is part of the Indie Brigade. You know, I'm going to get this out the way. Watch this. You're listening to the Romero Pictures Indie Brigade podcast with me, your host, George C. Romero, and my ever faithful and present producer extraordinaire, Joe Ridgely. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. It's been a crazy week. It's been a busy week. Lots going on. Big stuff with heavy metal. Getting there on if everybody paid attention, or if anybody paid attention, or if nobody paid attention. I have had the distinct honor to be asked to help breathe new life into Nelson from the heavy metal movie back in the 80s. And it's probably been one of the highlights of my writing career. And I'm very, very excited about the opportunity. Also a little nervous because Mr. Joseph Illidge just read my pages before the show today, so we haven't had a chance to talk. So I'm going to do my best to not grill him and be like, what'd you think? What'd you think?
Oh, seriously? You haven't heard back from him? Oh, man. And he's still doing the show?
Yeah, so that's a good sign. If he shows back up, he might be like, fuck this guy. He's such a great dude, though. It's really going to be a lot of fun tonight. Kelly, how you doing? Ed, what's up? Lauren, great to see you, brother. Lauren, did you see the dope ass fucking wood burning that Sean Smithson did of the Dark Military logo? Did you guys see that? That was cool shit. Sean's working on some very cool things, some very exclusive sort of products that we're going to be putting up to try to raise some more money for the Veterans Compound, which we actually raised the startup. I don't want to say startup funds. We raised the money to do the corporate filings and do all of the IRS stuff. You know when we raised that money, Joe?
When did we raise that money, George?
We raised the money during DEF CON 1. That was actually almost a full month ago. That was the
right?
Metal Romero Pictures Indie Brigade DEF CON 1. That was the No Contact, No Mask, No Filter very first online fan convention in the history of online fan conventions. There's a lot of other ones out there. I actually just did another one right before the show tonight. I did the Mainframe Con. They're trying to raise money for the Red Cross, which was very cool. So that was fun. But yeah, man, we raised the money for the Veterans Compound to get all that filed. And again, we did that during DEF CON 1 when we did the first online convention. So with heavy metal.
First.
What's up, Sam and Lance?
Oh, am I slacking?
Oh man, what else? Is there any other housekeeping? What else you want to talk about? How's your day? How about those new lights behind you, pal?
Oh, well, I'll play with those later.
Oh, come on. What can I do to piss you off? I want to see the red one.
I see, I'm unprepared now, man.
Fuck you, Joe. Thank you, Katie. What's up? Good to see you.
But George, you don't want to make me angry, George.
But I do, Joe. I do. It's one of my favorite things.
Oh, man.
I gotta get rid of that hotspot on the purple.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I said, I usually use voice activated, but
hey, you know what? We haven't talked about this yet. I know there's been a lot of people in the community reaching out trying to help Scott Williamson, who literally lost everything he had on Earth in a tornado on Easter Sunday. So he pretty much got totally fucked, and there have been some people really trying to do some good to help him. So there's a GoFundMe. If anybody has that link, I throw it in the comments. Scott's a great guy, great friend of the Brigade, and we really hope to see him get back on his feet soon. My indie productions, that can only be Itai. Fancy Lights, what's up, Itai? Miss you, pal. Man, Superman Blue, Joe, go blue, but back to regular. All right. Where else can they find us, Joe? Because we're available in audio only.
You mean iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pandora, TuneIn, RadioPublic, and Breaker?
Yeah, I think all of those places you can go check us out, the audio only version. And I'm told that Avail TV is getting all of our episodes back up and running. There was some sort of glitch or something due to I think the servers caught the COVID. But anyway, it should be all back up and running very soon. All of the episodes of the Indie Brigade on Avail TV, which is a brand new streaming app available on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV and Apple TV Plus. We've got our own channel on there. At least we're supposed to. So hopefully, I think it's all still there on Roku, but they're working on getting it all back up and running on the Fire TV devices and stuff. But we've got our own channel there called Romero Pictures Indie Brigade, and we've got great things coming through Avail TV in the future, hopefully. So go check us out there. Let's see. Man, I love our community so much. I love that they come on here and they just talk to each other.
Right? And they all greet each other. And
yeah.
May want to bring up who's going to be on the end of the night.
Yeah, well, go ahead. We've got David Lee Madison show the end of the night coming up with Mr. John O'Hurley. Actually just got to meet John backstage in the green room there, and he is such a nice guy, such a classy gentleman too. So I'm honored to have him on our network, and I think David is just doing a great job over at the end of the night. So stick around. We've got G-Tom Mac coming up also on the end of the night with David Lee Madison. You all, of course, know him from the song Cry Little Sister from the Lost Boys. So please stick around for David's show after the Indie Brigade. We all have a lot of fun on David's show, and we're just very proud to have him here. That's the other thing. Let's just go over all the other stuff people can check out. That's Indie Brigade. Drone Cav, all that other jazz.
I do.
We've got Terry Gerald from the Romero Pictures Drone Cav watching with us tonight. We've got Lance and Samantha Wagner from the Wagner Wiles watching with us tonight. These are two great video additions to the Indie Brigade network. The Drone Cav, Terry is a regional sort of expert for, or a regional authority for, I think the FAA, or is that the flying one? And he's dropping more knowledge about drones and drone usage and drone tech and all that stuff than you'll find anywhere else. He's one of the smartest guys when it comes to this stuff and camera systems and sort of newer camera systems. So if you haven't checked out the Drone Cav, check it out now. We've got Lance and Sam from the Wagner Wiles, one of the more popular shows on our network. These guys are just amazing. Their energy is just beautiful. We've got the Nasty Nation with Chuck Nasty, as always, which is an audio podcast available on the Indie Brigade. And then we've got The Devil Is Into Detail, which is a blog written by our own Ian Steyer, the creator of all of our new graphics and brand identity, logos and look and feel. He's got this creativity thing dialed in pretty good, and he talks some no bullshit stuff about creativity. So check out his blog. And then we've, of course, got The End of the Night. And I just realized I'm going to make a note. I still need to get The End of the Night on that graphic. So.
Slacker. It's not very often I get to say that.
No, I guess not. Scare Tactical is a great line of merch that's available on the RomeroPictures.com site. Everything you buy with the Scare Tactical logo, a portion of your sale goes toward the Veterans Compound, which helps us help veterans. So go to RomeroPictures.com/merch. And now I'm officially making another note about this, Joe. I am writing this down. Remove LE wings. It's on my list now. That shit's going. The only reason our limited edition wings merch is still up there is because I have not had time to take it down. That is no bullshit. I've been so crazy busy, it's not even funny. So I've made a note. It's on my clipboard. It's coming down this weekend. I'll probably do it Sunday night. So if anybody out there wants to get any of those limited editions, Romero Pictures, wings logo merch, now is the last chance to do that.
Right on. Let me get this on there. And, well, I think it's about that time that we bring up your first guest.
I think so. Jack, I'm telling you, it's going to be gone, man. Like gone forever. Well, probably not forever. I'm sure we'll bring it back next year.
John's comment, Outlaws and Lunatics.
Johnny boy, what's up? I'm so happy John is watching tonight. John is one of my oldest, dearest friends. He's one of the most talented screenwriters I've ever known. And I actually have asked him to be on the show before. Maybe one of these days he'll agree to do it. John wrote a fucking movie called Outlaws and Lunatics that is super fun. We will get it made one day, John. You know how this all works out.
I thought he was referencing you.
He was.
You.
It's his film. And in order to get it made, we've got to basically be a couple of Outlaws and Lunatics. So we will get it done. Johnny, you got to come on the show and talk to some of these folks about screenwriting. You've got a phenomenal process. John and I actually co-wrote a script from scratch, and it was probably one of the best co-writing experiences I've ever had in my life. It looks like my beautiful wife, Rebecca, is watching.
She is.
So to her, I love you more than anything. And
She's not concerned about you, though. She's saying hi to everybody else.
I know, but I want to thank her for being the best part of my entire life. Next to Joe.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice save. Well, without further ado, I need Eileen to give me a nod if she's ready to come up. Yes. All right. Without further ado, here is Eileen. Oh, sorry. Wrong button.
Eileen, how are you tonight?
I'm actually pretty good, considering everything.
Yeah. Where are you?
Home.
No, I mean, like where? Where is home?
Where am I? Home is in an old monastery in the Hollywood Hills.
Oh, very cool.
Nice.
I used to live up in Laurel Canyon for a time.
Oh, well, that's that's a little bit away from me. I live way over near Los Feliz, but not Los Feliz.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
My hair looks really dumb with this headset on.
No, you look beautiful. Thank you so much for joining.
Eileen,
What?
you can put it on underneath you.
It's too big.
No,
My husband's directing me.
Oh, got it.
It's fine.
okay.
Hey, I have a friend with me.
I see that.
You know what she does?
What's that?
Watch this. Wait, there's more. Wait, hold on.
Was an excellent day for an exorcism. And I
And she walks, she talks, she does all kinds of things. She's Reagan.
I think I need that in my life.
You didn't know that was Reagan? Anyway, they're for sale. Great Mother's Day present, right?
Excellent plug.
I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome. I knew exactly.
People have very cool mothers. You know, when I think of mothers, because I'm so old, my mother would go, "Really? What is that? Go away." But it's really cute. I have other promos too, but we can do them later if you want.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, the show isn't Eileen's marketplace, is it?
It can be. We'll give you plenty of time to plug all your stuff.
Oh, but I don't want it to just be that. Hi, George.
How are you?
Joe.
Hi.
Bye. Say bye. Bye.
I need one of those in my life. I really do.
The what in your life?
I need one of those dolls in my life.
Send me PayPal and it's yours.
Consider it done.
Yeah. Actually, anybody out there that wants my stuff, just the best way to do is send me a chat on Facebook and I'll give you all the details.
You got it.
But anything that's for Mom, for Mother's Day, 10% of the sales are going to go to either feeding the hungry in LA because of the virus, or obviously, I can't even say it without tearing up, so I'll try really hard, okay? All the nurses and doctors and first responders and all of them, they need money too. So 10% of all my sales are going to go to help with the ravages of the virus.
Well, I love that. How are you doing? How are you holding up? You guys are staying safe and healthy. You're sheltered in place. You're all hunkered down and everything's good.
Well, it might be a new horror movie when my husband and I kill each other. Because it's just the two of us and a couple cats.
That's sweet though.
We have a huge. I live in what used to be an old monastery, and it's really beautiful and it's really rustic and it's a huge living room and a fireplace, but it's only one bedroom, so it's hard to get away from each other, but we manage.
Well, that's sweet.
Yeah, and it's strangely enough, I think casting directors in this town are really bored, so they're sending all kinds of self-tape auditions to do. Which is a new thing in Hollywood. Everybody's saving all this money. Instead of going to a studio or an office to audition, now you do them at home. And
what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think about doing that? Do you like it that way or no?
No.
No.
You don't have a chance to. Sometimes these scenes are really obscure, and you really don't know what the hell you're talking about, or who the people are, or who you are. A lot of casting people, I think, are kind of new at this, and they send the last one I did. Are you ready for this? Was 6 pages of dialogue.
Good Lord.
And we need it tomorrow. So if you have 3 of them, I mean, when I was on General Hospital, I used to do 30 pages of dialogue a night. But that was a long time ago. I'm not that young anymore.
I think there's a different level of urgency, and that's interesting to talk about too, because 30 pages of dialogue when you're on General Hospital is a lot. But I mean, soaps are notorious for hammering out so much script a day. And then you've got the big budget movies that, like the huge budget movies where they'll shoot 2 pages or a page in an 8 day. And then you've got indie film worlds, and you've got experience across a lot of this stuff, and then you've got the indie film world where maybe we're shooting between 6 and 11 pages a day.
At least, and 1 take.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. We're moving on. But wait.
Well, what do you think about kind of the way things are done now in the indie world as opposed to, say, on The Exorcist? You know what I mean? Like in terms of process and. Because recently you did 100 Acres of Hell, and now, but a lot of people are tuning in tonight and flipping out because of The Exorcist. And
I thank you, George, because I really do like people to know that, unlike somebody we know, that I've been working continuously since The Exorcist. So like The Exorcist, has totally changed my life, and it's the biggest part of my life. And I love Dick Smith, the makeup. What word am I trying to think? Genius. I mean, I love him. He's just been such a big part of my life. May he rest in peace. But it's still. Well, I mean, I'm so blessed to have done it. It's changed my life. I've been to the UK 6 or 7 times. I've, with horror conventions. I've been to Germany. I've been to Spain. Who ever thought,
Well, it's interesting.
A film we shot in 1974.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting too.
I was 10.
Film students everywhere, have watched that movie frame by frame. At some point, I'm sure you had to be the most paused face in the history of film, like the most frozen face, there, because of all all the talk about the subliminal aspect of it and all of that other stuff. Literally every film student everywhere for a lot of years would watch that movie frame by frame. I mean, what's that? Do you ever think about it in terms like that? Do you ever think about the iconic sort of status that you achieved by doing?
Well, what I found out is that icons are in the eye of the beholder. That's right. So it's people that make you an icon. So it's not that you really think about it. Sometimes at horror conventions, I realized the power of that and how it affected people, and that's kind of fun. But and Warner Brothers uses that picture all the time. Yeah. They really don't use much of Miss Blair. They love that face, and so that's really nice. But it's still just it's just a part of my life. Yeah. And I was so lucky. A lot of times people want to call me a stunt double or a double hamburger. There's stuff like that, but it was actually a principal role in the film because most people know now that I also did all the fun things in the movie, such as masturbating, vomiting, levitating, dying, and all that kind of stuff. It was through the wonder of Dick Smith that I was made up to look like the other girl.
I wonder why. I wonder why maybe people didn't realize that for so long. Was there some sort of contractual thing?
There was, and Warner Brothers, in their infinite wisdom, the bean counters, felt that the movie would be, or maybe Billy Freakin, thought the movie would be much scarier if they thought a 12-year-old did all that work. Well, at that time, she couldn't do a lot of the work, and I was really only hired to do the masturbation scene, and I ended up working on the film 4.5 months because I guess they just liked what I did. Yeah. So really, that's why. And I did sign in my contract that I wouldn't talk about it, because who knew? It was, it was the first big studio film I did. I did a lot of work in New York on different soaps, and actually, to digress for a minute, I did this amazing show for PBS about pollution and what would happen, and just about everything we talked about in that show has come to pass. And Sam Waterston was in it, and Charlotte Ray was in it, and all of the young playwrights in New York all wrote these different little segments. And with climate control and all that kind of stuff, they should find it someplace. But anyway, what was the question?
We're just talking. This is kind of like, it's a pretty free form podcast. I like to basically just talk to folks who have been in the business for a while. Most of our audience are young filmmakers, new creatives, folks like that. And so what I like to do is just get on and talk about things that A, I think they'll find interesting, and B, hopefully talk about things that will teach them some stuff.
Yeah. Well, want to say hi to Pazuzu? Hi, this is Pazuzu. I actually keep you safe. And hello. Some people say they're like gargoyles, and they kind of guard your house, but that's Pazuzu, and I'm the only one that has them. I got 20 of them. But I think, especially with the young filmmakers, and number one, I think there's a huge difference between horror and a thriller. Yep. And today, all the great films in the 70s and early 80s, you could classify as a thriller, not horror. That horror seems to have denigrated it into a lot of blood, and how much blood can we find, how many people can we pull apart, while a thriller has to have, and this is for your young indie people out there, it has to have people. It has to have a cast. It has to have people that you care about, or you care to hate, or care to love. And it has to have a plot. It has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's what makes a good, if not a great film. And if you think about it, films like, obviously Halloween, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, all those great, great films, they all have, and Texas Chainsaw is the closest to horror that we know now, but they all have a cast and a plot. And I think that's just so important. I've read some scripts that, oh my God. I'm sorry someone took that much time typing it.
Yeah, I know.
But you young filmmakers out there, even God said first there was the word. If there's no, in my opinion, if there's no script, you ain't got nothing.
That's right. That's right. Well, and
see, George, you don't have to talk. I'll just go on.
Well, no, I take a lot of notes when my guests talk, because I don't, we live in a world now where people just wait to talk. They don't actually listen and then respond. So, we've got Joe Castro, but we should pause actually, because I've been super rude. We have a shitload of people, and pardon my language, I apologize. I forgot I'm speaking with a lady. My apologies. My wife would smack me if she could get into the studio for swearing.
You just got real quiet. What did you say?
But I'm apologizing for swearing in front of you.
Oh, what did you say? I didn't hear.
Oh, I said something about fuck. I don't know.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't get it. But talking about indie films, I haven't gotten a chance to plug my favorite indie films of the last year or so.
Oh, we're getting there. We've got a bunch of people flipping out to say hello to you.
Okay.
So in our comments here, we've got just a lot of people tuned in to see it tonight. Joe Castro was one that just popped.
Hey, Joe.
Let's see. I'm just scrolling here. 100 Acres of Hell right here. So glad to see Eileen on the Brigade tonight. We love those guys. We love that movie. You of course are in that film, 100 Acres of Hell. And that we love all those guys, Ernie and Gene and everybody involved with it.
Listen, everybody has time now. So
Yeah.
support indie film. And
That's
there's a lot of really, really good ones out there.
Yeah. Well, you said you started talking about scripts and, and how the script is the most important part of anything. I couldn't agree with you more because that's without a script, there's no movie. But, I think a lot of times indie filmmakers are, especially newer, younger writers, they tend to either write too much exposition and too much dialogue or not enough. As an actor with the experience that you have, when you read a script, what are the kinds of things that, like what's that initial checklist that just quick sort of when you skim it, what's the stuff that you look for to know if you're really going to give a character sort of the time to kind of put the time and energy and effort into figuring out if you.
That's a good question. For you. Obviously, when you're reading the script, you're looking for the part that they have you in mind for, but it kind of has to grab you from page one, and it's something has to happen right from the get-go that goes, wow, I want to see what's happening next, and I want to see what's happening next. So they have to set it up right from, like I said, right from the get-go. I mean, have you read scripts? Sometimes you just want to throw it away after the 10th page.
Oh, yeah, sometimes after the second, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is they have to know how to write. Yeah. You'd be surprised, grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes. They don't know how to get to, a screenwriting program and put it in the right form.
I remember being a young writer and writing on before we had a lot of these.
Excuse me. Hi, Joe. Joe just came up on there.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this whole thing to blow over so we can make movie magic. Yeah. When I was a young writer and writing before we had computers with all this software, and if you wanted to find a script, we didn't have websites to go to. You had to go find a physical copy of a script and read it. I remember when scripts were full of typos. And nowadays, you know, if you turn in a script with a typo, it almost prevents people from giving the.
Oh, they won't read it. Like agents, they won't read it.
Yeah, I know, and it's crazy because you know scripts from the 80s, they were full of typos and grammatical errors, and you just kind of had to figure out what was meant. But nowadays you can't. But you know, look, I agree with you. A script has to grab you from the beginning. But now, say. Here's a hypothetical for you. Say you're reading a script and somebody says, Eileen, I want you to read the script. And the character I want you to pay attention to, because the character I want you to play is named, you know, Susan. When you read the Susan character, what do you need to see for that to grab you and make you think, hey, this is something I could do, versus what makes you say, nah, forget this?
Well, first of all, I don't like reading scripts. I procrastinate because scripts aren't supposed to be read. They're supposed to be acted. I don't know what it is. I think I get bogged down in character and descriptions and like you said, exposition, and I don't know what. But the character has to have some kind of arc, meaning that the character should change through the script, but either more evil, nicer, something like that, but the character has to develop into something else rather than. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, you want a character with a journey. And
yes, that's the word. And what I like to do, and what I try and find as an actress, and I've played a lot of very evil people. It reminds me of Ozark. But these people don't think they're evil. Nobody thinks that. Do you think Trump thinks he's evil? Or Hitler thought he was evil? They think they're doing the right. So I like to find the vulnerability in the character to see what makes them tick. And I like to see if that's happening. Now, you can bring a lot of that to the script as an actor. But
that's interesting that you use the term vulnerability. You look for the character's weaknesses, and you build off of that.
Mm-hmm. But like going back to General Hospital again, that I played a character in a mental hospital, really. But there were times that she was just very vulnerable, and there were times she was very mean and evil. So you want to, because I think all people have a vulnerable side. They have dreams and hopes and aspirations, or even I'm going to control the world. And that you have to find that in the script with all the people. And
I think it's interesting though that you build off the weaknesses. So you basically look for the parts of the character that are broken down, and then you rebuild the character from
and have hope.
Yeah,
that's true in life too, though.
Well,
we don't want to be around people that are just always down. You want to be around people that say tomorrow's going to be better.
That's why
we all help.
That's why we started the Indie Brigade. We want, the indie community is full of people who are out there thinking that they're alone with their thoughts, and thinking that they're alone in a world of other creatives who don't struggle like they do. And a lot of our young filmmakers, I think, found us because we are the opposite of that. We want everybody to know that we're all here, we're all equal, we're all creatives, and we all struggle with certain things when it comes to creating and making stuff. And a lot of that has to do with hope, and hope is different than well, I don't know. I lost that train of thought, but I think that what we like.
No, but when you were talking, it reminded me of Big Little Liars. Big Little Liars, is that what it was called?
I don't know.
Little Liars, the one with Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon.
Oh yeah,
anyway,
that's a good show.
There were all these very wealthy people, that lived in Marin County and up north. And they all had vulnerabilities. They all had things behind their faces, behind what was going on in their marriages that weren't like what everybody saw. And, I think the director, hopefully you're in a safe place so you can find those things and they'll allow you to be there.
So what do you need? Okay, last question, and then we'll talk. We're going to let you we're going to talk about all your stuff you have going on. So that's another question. As an actor with your experience, what advice can you give to to some of our filmmakers and some of our young directors watching when it comes to working with an actress such as yourself? And it comes
to... the first thing that I don't think it happens very often, but my acting teacher used to have directors come to his acting class. And I think that's an amazing idea to find out what makes actors really, really tick, and to be able to talk to actors in a language that they understand and then feel comfortable. It's nice to have that connection with the director. And like I said, it's also nice to just know you're in a safe place so that you can experiment. People are going to go, what the fuck was that? So, well, it was a thought. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just asking about any advice you could give some young filmmakers or directors in terms of working with an actor such as yourself, in terms of like when you need to reach a level of vulnerability and you need to reach certain places on set. A lot of times, especially younger first-time, second-time filmmakers aren't really aware of how to kind of give their talent what they need to get the performance out.
Yeah, well, I think if there's time, it's just nice to go have coffee with the people you're working with and get to know them and have them get to know you, because I don't think anybody really has time to rehearse anymore, because budgets are small, things are small. But I really think to get out there and so everybody feels comfortable with each other. And then a lot of times people don't have time for that. So just have a script, and really just have a script ready and be ready to shoot. And if you're fucked up in your head or scared, I knew a director once. She said, "I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard." But I think it's very important to give actors a real sense of security that everything's going well and everything's going beautifully. And I wonder to make you feel like you're the most important person in the world without you asking to be the most important person in the world. Does that make sense? People just like what you do and say, not, oh my God, Eileen, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. But just say, you got it, and move on. And I think that's very important to actors.
For me, when I'm on set and it's time to roll cameras, everything that happens up until that word action is its own world. And then when it comes down to getting the scene, it is me and the actor or the actors, and that's it. And I'm just there. I try not to spend time at the monitors. I try to spend my time as a director there on the set, off to the side. It becomes a very personal.
Well, it's harder for an actor because, the director, because everybody wants you. Everybody wants your time. Everybody, whether it's the art department or press service or sound, they all want a little part of you. So it's kind of really hard for an actor, it's a little easier. You know what a pet peeve I have is? Young actors, that the minute their scene is over or take one is over, they run to their phones. What is so important? If I were God or a director, I swear I would take everybody's phone away and say, look, you just be in the moment and concentrate on what you're doing. And, the phone call can wait. Or tell them that you're on the set and you'll get back to them, during a break. But it is easier for actors. And while we're saying that, what I would like to say, if there are any actors out there, get in front of a camera. Just get in front of a camera. Do a student film. If you're coming to LA or New York, come with a bunch of money so that you can work for free, that you can do student films, that you can do a little thing. You have a friend, pick up a camera and work with that camera, because you have to get comfortable in front of the camera. If you're not comfortable, then everybody hates you. And that's your job as an actor after you've, studied your part. And in fact, I wanted to do that once. I didn't want to teach acting on a soap, but I wanted to teach people how to be on a soap, because technically it's different than anything else. It's close to sitcoms, but it's different than anything else. So that's part of your job, to know where you are, know what you're doing, and the more you can work, the more that you'll feel real comfortable, and then you can just think about the work.
Yeah. Katie Walsh says actors will always show up to do what the role calls for, but if there's a feeling of mutual respect between the actor and the director. It helps the actor to feel safe enough and vulnerable enough to take their character deeper. Win-win for everyone.
That's why directors a lot use the same people over and over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Robert Altman was famous for that.
Oh, I know.
The other thing, talk about Robert Altman, watch movies, for heaven's sakes. I know people who love horror films, and I say, well, have you seen Rosemary's Baby? No.
Yep.
Have you seen any of the great Psycho? Well, I saw the new one. How about, they won't watch anything that's in black and white.
Listen, I'll tell you, if you want to learn Altman, an excellent example of Altman for horror filmmakers is MASH. The film is not a horror film, but some of the way he shot it has directly translated into my career as well. So he's got a phenomenal way of shooting MASH. And
they're all dying off one by one.
Yeah. Well, listen, Eileen, we're almost out of time here, so I would like to give you the full screen and let you tell everybody where they can find you, what you're pushing, what you would like people to go do.
Okay, can I?
That stuff.
Okay, let me just do this. This is. You sure this is okay?
Absolutely. Whatever you want to tell people to go find. Absolutely.
I think this is a great Mother's Day gift, especially with everybody not being able to go out and look for gifts and stuff like that. So I wrote a book. There we go.
There it is.
It's called Exorcising My Demons, and the whole first third of the book, it's kind of inspirational about following your dreams and don't let anybody talk you out of your dreams. Got a lot of pictures in it too. That way. Got a lot of pictures and stuff. Oh, that's Planet of the Apes that opened up too. Oh, that was one of my favorite jobs. It's the TV show. But it starts out written by an amazing guy named Dan Loubier. How this little skinny, little fat-chested, toothed little girl from New York ended up in the scariest movie of all time. So it is a bio like that. And there's some very sad things in it. And there's some very, very funny things in it. It's my Me Too experience, except they didn't call it that then. And then it goes into everything you ever wanted to know about The Exorcist. It goes into my audition. And I'm telling you, there's really funny stuff. Like, I was really small, but the casting director said, "What, can you get smaller?" And at that time, they had in the back of magazines these plastic suits that you could lose weight in because you perspired. So I wrapped myself and I rode my bicycle through Central Park. And it's kind of things like that. And meeting Billy Freakin for the first time and Dick Smith and going to Dick Smith's thing. And then the first day on the set and crazy things that happened on the set. And so that's what that book is about. It's not a horror book, but and I showed you my walking, talking Sylvie doll and my Pazuzu statue. And any sale that I make, like I said, 10%. I'm giving a 15% discount on everything because it's Mother's Day, and then 10% is going to go to one of the charities out here in LA. And if you want to get in touch with me, the best way to get in touch with me is if you're on Facebook, send me a chat and I will answer it. But so help me, if you start sending me chats and it has nothing to do with buying anything, this demon's going to be very angry. And so that's really it. They're, kind of fun. Like I have all these 8x10s from the movie as well, and Exorcist scripts and stuff like that. But I think they make some nice Mother's Day presents if you just don't know what to get for Mother's Day. Awesome.
Well, Eileen, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and spending some time with us here tonight on the Indie Brigade.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Once Joe, we went through hell and back to get this all set up. We started it last Monday.
That's what Joe does. He goes through hell. I put Joe through hell on a regular basis.
Well, really? Because, I'm not like a computer wizard or anything. Well, you know us. You have to be, what do they call before millennials? They have something, like XYZ generation, whatever it is.
Gen X.
Yeah, there's 8-year-olds that know how to use a computer better than I do.
And I just got to let you know, Eileen, Jason from 100 Acres of Hell is here and saying you look lovely as usual. And Katie Walsh also from 100 Acres of Hell.
Oh,
is
can
here.
I say something right before we go?
Sure.
Besides, I'm going to give you just a real quick list of films that are coming out, or films that haven't come out, so that you have something to do during the lockdown. There's a wonderful little film called Itsy Bitsy with Bruce Davison and me, which is about spiders. There's 100 Acres of Hell that you can buy, anywhere, which is a lot of fun. And they have wrestlers in that one. I'm doing a show called The Bloody Dark during the summer. Talk about scripts. That script just absolutely grabs you. Clown Motel 2, which we just reached our goal in Kickstarter. And that's just a real fun film. And I feel like getting an Oscar. I know there's things I'm forgetting. It's a comedy. I can't think of it. Abnormal Attraction. That's out now, and that's a really funny movie. And so is Clownado, which is a real grunge film. So if anybody really wants to know anything more about these films that I'm doing, unfortunately, we got to figure out when we're doing them now. But if anybody wants it, then you can, go to my Facebook page or chat with me, because I support indie film. Indie film.
That's what we do here. Well,
and
Eileen,
if people would
you.
stop going to see sequels.
Yeah, well,
if they stop paying,
we could talk about that for a whole episode.
Okay, next Friday. Hey, I got a lot of time on my hands, George.
We'll come back and spend more of it with us.
Anytime, Joe. Just call me.
I will. Hey, thank you again. We will see you next time.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
What an awesome lady.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
And I mean, in the business, just the experiences she's had.
I know.
But we do have your other guest lined up, and I appreciate his patience. We did run a little over.
As do I. Apologies, Joe. Apologies, Joe. Not you, Joe.
Well,
Apologies.
I know, not me.
Apologies to the good Joe.
Without further ado,
Joe Illidge, how are you, sir?
Hey, how's it going? And no apologies necessary. I like Eileen. She's cool.
Yeah, she's super cool. She's a super cool lady. She's a sweetheart, and she's got a ton of experiences in this business. So
yeah, definitely.
And our viewers were flipping out over her. So
I mean,
Joe,
she's talking old school, like William Friedkin and all that stuff, getting down to it.
Right? I mean,
Exorcist, come on.
And I think it's cool that it's kind of finally come out now that she did all that other stuff in that movie. And I think it's interesting that they contractually prohibited her. They've literally put a gag order on her to prevent her from talking about some of the stuff she did in that movie for years.
That's right.
That's got to be rough. Also, as an actor, trying to get more work after something like that too. So, So how are you?
Much respect to her.
How are you doing? How are you holding up through all these crazy times, man?
Hey, you know what? I survived another week in comics, which is amazing. So to me, like, this is awesome. This is like my decompression.
So let's, for a lot of people who don't know that, because to start, that's a huge statement. I survived another week in comics. For anybody who does not know Joe Illidge, you need to go Google some shit quick, because we're extremely lucky to have him here tonight. But what I would like to do is just give you a chance to sort of introduce yourself as you would like to be introduced to anybody watching who may not know more about your career than you do. I'm sure we
gotcha. I appreciate it. Yeah. So right now I'm co-managing editor of Heavy Metal magazine, which is a major thrill and honor for me, because I remember heavy metal from when I was in high school and first discovered Liberatore's Ranxerox. So, you encounter heavy metal, it changes your life and your whole perception of storytelling. So working there is great. I started at a company called Milestone Media, first Black-owned comic book company to have a deal with DC Comics, created the first multicultural superhero universe, characters from different backgrounds, different sexual identities. And from there, I went to DC Comics and I worked in the Batman universe. And I worked there at a great time. They were doing this project called No Man's Land, which was this 1-year weekly story about the fact that after a contagion and an earthquake, the United States government considered Gotham City a hazard zone. So they blew the bridges. There was no electricity. There was no food coming in. So Gotham descended into a feudal society that was run by a gang culture. So if you took over a territory, you marked it, right? And Batman had to relearn how to operate in his own city and to basically instill fear through the power of his legend again. So that was really something that was not superheroes. It was really about the breakdown and recreation of society. So that was amazing. And I've really done a lot of column writing, worked at various comic book companies since then. But right now I'm at Heavy Metal. We're launching some great things. You may know about a few of them. And so it's a really exciting time. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, working with Heavy Metal, first of all, working with you is a huge geek out for me.
Thank you.
I was a big fan of No Man's Land.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to ask you a question about that. But, you know, I got to tell you, working with Heavy Metal and working on the Nelson, Heavy Metal was huge to me when I was a kid. It was that thing you hid with your D&D books.
That's right.
And if you had like the latest copy of Heavy Metal, it was like street cred, you know.
Yep.
Like, your friends would be like, "Oh, you got the new one? Fuck yeah, man!"
Yep. You
know?
were definitely in a different category if you were reading that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was not a category that was popular like it is today. It was a category that was sort of like underground cool. It was it was like people understood that you were sort of a little bit different than most people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
But
Agreed.
it helped shape so much of us. It was the first look so many of us got at the style of artwork and the style of storytelling and the style of articles and writing and everything. I mean, the whole thing, it was a culture that a lot of us got exposed to that was maybe our parents would have thought it was maybe 10 years ahead of where we should have found Heavy Metal.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And to be working with you and working with Heavy Metal and working on this particular project over there is like, it's a dream come true, man. So
wow.
I'm fighting my urges to ask you what you think.
No,
anyway,
we can.
I'm going to focus on why you're here, and I'm going to go into the Batman thing.
No questions are off limits.
I don't know if I can handle rejection in front of the audience.
Do it. It's not happening tonight. No rejection tonight.
So working in the Batman universe, that had to be because I want to transition into talking about intellectual property, which is what I asked you to come here and talk about.
Sure.
But working within the Batman universe, what was that like to work within such an established canon and to essentially reboot a dark side of the Batman? I mean, you got to work in this sort of established world, but there were no rules for you. It was like starting over from scratch. What's that like to work so freely within such an established IP?
Yeah, you know, stepping into Batman No Man's Land, like that was really exciting because here was the story of No Man's Land. So Jordan B. Gorfinkel, who was an editor there, went home on a Friday, comes back on a Monday with this 10-page document, which is basically the treatment for Batman No Man's Land. Now, at that time, Denny O'Neil, legendary editor, legendary writer on Batman, The Question, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, a lot of characters. He was a group editor. And so he read it and he said, this is either going to get all of us fired or this is going to be the most amazing Batman story ever. And it was when he took it to the higher ups, you know, there was some skepticism, but they were like, okay, it's you want to do it. We're going to try it. And it was the most challenging thing of my career in a sense, because it was weekly and it's 52 chapters, which means none of those comic books can be late.
Right.
They all had to come out on time because if one was late, then the dominoes fell and it ruined the whole thing. Right. So when I first got there, I swear to you, the first thing I ordered was like this huge whiteboard that was the size of one wall. And I literally did the grid of like 3 months worth of books. And I would update it every day. You know what I mean? Because that was basically like the 10,000 foot view of no man's land, right? And the idea of working with so many different writers on different storylines was really great. The thing about working on Batman, though, which is crazy, is at any given time, there were 3 generations of people that know Batman. Right. And at that time, some of them still like knew the 1960s show. So even though Batman is a character that lends himself to horror, gothic, all that stuff, you still couldn't go like past a certain line with Batman, which was crazy. And Batman had hard and fast rules. So here's a story I always tell. So 2 weeks, I was working there for 2 weeks. So there's a Catwoman story and the Joker's in it. And these colored pages come in and the Joker's lips are blue. Now I know the Joker's lips are red, right? But I'm like, I just got here. The colorists must know what they're doing. So I just signed it through. It went to like a coloring studio. We got back these proofs. The assistant art director sent out this email. Who in the hell like let this go through? Everyone knows that Joker's lips are red, blah, blah, blah. And the guy, Jordan B. Gorfinkel, I told you about, he took a bullet for me and he said it was my fault, right? But right there, I was like, I just got here and I'm going to get fired over the color of the Joker's lips, right? But that's when I realized that Batman was not a character. Batman was an intellectual property with very specific rules that had to be maintained.
Yeah. Well, and that's the power of creating a piece of intellectual property as opposed to a story.
That's right. That's right. The story is a mythology and, you know, a dramatic narrative. But when you're talking about the IP, you're talking about Bibles. There are story Bibles. There are logo Bibles. There are, you know, licensing Bibles. And these are basically the rules which must be followed under consequence of death for like a major character like that, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think he's DC's most profitable character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and with good reason, you know, I mean, how long has the Batman Superman argument been going on, right? It's always Batman versus Batman, you know,
That's
and
it.
There's different kinds of folks out there, different kinds of fans out there.
Yep.
And Batman appeals on a lot of levels because, well, there's a lot of personal reasons why Batman appeals. I think that's part of it too. Batman has an appeal to all Batman fans for very different personal reasons.
That's
and
right.
That's something that's hard to achieve as well. But you know, it's interesting because we get a lot of questions here from folks that revolve around sort of what's the best way to stick up for your own creative when you're trying to make a movie and you're dealing with investors who want to change things like that, who want to change things about your work. Right. And so this has kind of sparked this whole, I've been on this IP sort of kick lately that actually Matt Medney over at Heavy Metal he and I kicked it off talking here one night about IP development. And then since then, it's been this sort of really recurring kind of theme that we've been talking about lately, because I'm trying to get this point across and get it in the heads of all of the members of the brigade, how important it is to not just write a script. You can't write a script these days and run around and say, finance my movie, help me make my movie. You know,
that's not enough.
Right. You can, but then it's always just going to be the same argument. It's going to be that same fucking hamster wheel that you get on with every project you do. But if you take something and you think about it from the standpoint of creating intellectual property, creating something that can have a Bible, creating something that can have longer term like that, and more commercial appeal from the standpoint of different verticals, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here.
Right,
you know, like, what do you think? What's the best way to start out thinking about something as an intellectual property as opposed to a script?
Okay, so I think it depends where you see the destination of it, right? So in your mind, if it's going to be visual, right? So if it's going to be a Netflix show, if it's going to be animated, live action, if you are not an artist, then you need an artist, right? Because the best comic book or graphic novel, or should I say the best written comic book or graphic novel, the words will come second. And this is no offense to writers. I want you to listen to what I'm saying before you flip out on me. The first thing people are going to see are the visuals. The visuals will get them to buy it, and then they'll get to the words, right? But the visuals are crucial. So if you're trying to make something, I think, into a visual medium, I think these days you want to explore the possibility of, is this a graphic novel? Is this a novel? What is this, right? So what is the best way to introduce it, and what do you see as the destination, right? So in the case of a graphic novel, the beauty of a graphic novel versus a screenplay, like you said, is the graphic novel is basically the cinematography and the direction of the film right there, right? You see the style, you see the palette, so you can give that to a director and they can use that as their visionary foundation, right? Because they get a sense of the atmosphere, the world. Is this claustrophobic? Is this expansive? Is this the past? Is this the future? Things like that. From a writing standpoint, I always feel like good stories can translate into any medium. So I think the worst thing you can do is say, this is what's hot in Hollywood now, so I'm going to write a variation on this formula, right? You have to say, okay, I'm going to write a good story, and I'm going to write a story that only I could have written it this way. It has my unique perspective, right? Because I guess if we look at the entirety of story in our society, there are probably 10 stories that get done again and again and again. But what makes them unique is individual perspective and vision, right? So from a storytelling standpoint, I would say there's that, right? And part of what makes an excellent story is characters, right? You're in a world, of course, I mean, we're all in this world where it's like you present an idea and people want it distilled down very quickly in the beginning. So you say something like, it's Walking Dead meets Russian Doll, right? Okay, I think I know what that means. Okay, but then when they're reading it, it's like, there's either one character who's going on a journey, or there's a war between two characters, right? Like that's kind of like core, right? Or a relationship between two characters. So when you can create a character that is going on a journey that is compelling, I'll go with you on it. And that's what people want, right? Because ultimately what it comes down to is everyone wants to feel that their life has purpose. No one wants to think that they will be born, live, and go and have accomplished nothing and have meant nothing. Right. So we all want to feel like our life has purpose. So when we're reading stories, we're looking for purpose reflected back at us.
Oh, wow. I want to actually write that down.
Okay. I'm earning my time then.
Notes. That's an amazing looking for purpose, looking back at us, staring back at us.
Yeah.
Reflecting back at us, I think you said. Reflecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is that's a powerful statement right there, man. And people are really digging the way you're explaining a lot of this stuff.
Well, I appreciate it. Want to help them out. Listen, stories are our food.
Well, yeah.
And right now we're talking about a captive audience planet. We want this food more than ever. We want stories.
Well, and I say that a lot. One of the things I've been talking about since this whole quarantine thing started, which is like 40 days now or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. But we're the ones who are going to tell the story of these times.
That's right.
Everyone else is going to recount facts.
Yep.
We're going to tell the story. And these times are going to be reflected in whatever voice we use to do that. They're going to be reflected. There's going to be hero stories. There's going to be villain stories. There's going to be all kinds of stories about these times, but the stories are what are going to live on forever. 100 years from now, people aren't going to remember what so-and-so said on the news. They're going to remember the book that so-and-so wrote about the COVID time.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And that there is an importance. There is a level of importance. A lot of people in this business, we all joke that we're not doing anything important like saving lives. But there is a level of importance that goes with storytelling, because we're the ones from back in the paintings on the walls of the caves. Those paintings told a story of a time. You know what I mean? Like everything from the time communication started, communication has evolved through the telling of stories, and history is remembered through the telling of stories. And that's what does make what we do important on some level. So it's important to find a voice. It's important to learn the voice that you want to tell those stories from, because, you know, you were saying that it's about your individual perspective and spin on something. You've got to be able to find your own voice before you can put that on there. And the best way to do that is to just get out there and do it and write. And, you know, I love your work. But you're talking a lot about characters, but you mentioned the world also earlier in terms of world building. So when it comes to creating IP, how important is it to, you know, a lot of people start with the world, a lot of people start with a story, a lot of people start with a character, but you know, how important is the world versus the characters?
Okay. Great question. Now this is reality, so I've got to make sure that this thing has enough juice. So you're going to walk with me here while I get an iPad Pro plug, and I'm going to plug it in here.
Sweet.
Okay, so we're good. So we're going to talk about, the world and story. Which one is more important? So it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing. You can do any one first. I would do the world first, right? And the reason is the world is context, right? So once you know the world conditions, then what you have to say is, hold on, I'll be right back.
And yes, Lance Wagner, I am geeking all the hell out.
This is the reality of things. Nothing lasts forever unless you give it some juice.
That's right.
So you're seeing reality here. Okay, so the world is what's going to challenge your characters, right? So if you're dealing with, like, let's look at something like Rollerball, right? Which may actually be prescient, right? And the one corporation, right? So if there's going to be the one corporation, there's going to be someone who's going to fight for individuality, right? Why? What is it that happened in that person's past that has conditioned them to believe that individuality is sacrosanct, right? So you need to have the world of one core so you can create the cast of characters that are pushed and pulled by that, right? And then once you're building the character, what's important is peril, right? Drama comes from making that character's existence as perilous as possible. And whatever the thing is that they most want to prevent from happening must happen. Right? Must happen.
That's a phenomenal way of putting that.
Exactly. Because then what happens is either they will fail horribly or they will go past their preconceived limitations and evolve. Right? And again, this just goes back to what we want to feel about ourselves. We would like to think, you know, life is going to test us, and we want to believe that we have the grit necessary to overcome certain things.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
Yep.
And it's interesting because the rise.
Yep.
It's literally there's a portion of that story that is literally 100% about characters pushing themselves beyond their moral and physical abilities to achieve something that is otherwise unachievable by them, even prior to, anyway, sorry.
No. This is what we're talking about.
I love talking to you, man. This is amazing. Like I could talk about this stuff with you for weeks. This is a real treat. And I'm thoroughly enjoying talking to you about this stuff, man.
Same here.
So the world, peril, the idea is to, a lot of people out there might know the phrase "save the cat," right? That's basically what Joe is talking about. You put the cat up a tree, then you save the cat.
Yep.
Is the quickest way to say that. But I like the way you say it better. So now we've got the character, we've got the world, we've got the images and the visuals, in terms of the visual tone. Where does theme fall into that, in terms of story, in terms of character, in terms of world? Theme is a term that a lot of folks, we had a conversation about theme last week, with regard to the Nelson story that I still don't think that we've announced the title yet. So it's
right. That's still a secret.
We talked a lot about theme, and I really liked a lot of things that you had to say last week when we were talking about theme. But theme is something that a lot of our folks might not even realize is a separate thing, and something that needs to be addressed not only separately but also symbiotically with every other part of the story.
Right.
So what does theme mean to someone like you when it comes to IP development?
Yeah, I feel like, so theme is at the core of a story, right? So it's like, so one of my favorite films, superhero film, but I think it was done in a very sophisticated way, was Batman Begins. Right? And the theme of Batman Begins was the overcoming of fear. And you could take that not only with Wayne and his journey, but across all these other characters. And it was like how fear impacts your life and how you will either succumb to it or how you will overcome it. Right? So once you have the theme is the fulcrum of your entire story. And all of the characters, all of the main storylines have to rest on that, right? And what you have to do is not see it as a crutch, but see it as like a liberation. Okay, we're going to have a discussion about fear, and we're going to have 3 different types of characters to do it, right? So basically, you have story architecture, you have characters, and you have a world. But the theme is basically like your floor, right? And in the world of comics, so a really well-known writer named Christopher Priest and I were having a discussion about this. And he said, and I believe this, every issue of a comic book has to have a theme, right? So like every issue is a micro theme. And then when you take an entire story and collect it, you have a macro theme.
Okay.
Right? So... but it's the foundation. If you cannot identify that, put it this way, if you've written something and you can't identify the theme, then to some degree your characters are lost.
Right.
They're basically untethered, right? Once you can identify the theme, you know what the tether is.
That's a really good way of putting it again. Geez, I hope people are paying attention. It looks to me like from these comments that people are flipping out.
All right, we hope so, because if they're going to be here on a Friday night, we got to make it worth their while.
Hey, man, that's what we try to do. We got a lot of people that actually they look forward to Friday nights, and hopefully they'll keep looking forward to it after the quarantine's over.
Yeah, seriously.
We're
in which all the days like blend together in this weird mishmash.
It really is. I've noticed that. I was talking with Matt again the other day about that, and it's like, you get so much more done almost during these times because there's no getting up, commuting. There's just getting up, getting coffee, going to your computer, and working until you don't work anymore.
Yep.
Until it's time to go to sleep.
But it's funny that you said that, because I think one of the things that actually helps, and it definitely helps me in my career working at home, is routine.
Yeah.
Like, I think we need routine. need some kind of structure. So even if your life doesn't have a structure that is partially outside, like create a structure for yourself inside. You can shake it up a bit if you like, but just like have the basics there.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, for me, I've got a wood shop, and I go and I that's where I find my Zen, you know. I create and I write and I do a lot of stuff all day long, but between that and between jobs and between whatever I'm doing, I always go out there and I just make something, you know, and I try to even carry that over into things like cooking. And, you know, I try to make everything I do, I try to make artistic on some level. And
I think that's great.
Yeah. And I ultimately find that I draw a lot of inspiration for things I write from that too. I could be cooking dinner one night and think about how a character that I'm writing loves to cook Italian food. And that could send me off on some development tangent that completely like thickens up the texture of a character and adds so much story and backstory that you can literally convey with just a shot or two. And, you know, once you get past the script into the shooting of it, convey it in a shot or two of a character carefully decorating a plate and serving food to his dog. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden there's all this like
something about their personality.
Yeah.
Right. Just as simple as how they prepare food. Wow, this person is meticulous. Wow, this person is a foodie. You know, what do these things say? This person is a fan of Italian food. Why? Right. Right. Like why is one of the best questions for a writer, because then you can start building the backstory.
That's right. And backstory is huge when it comes to things like IP development.
Yes.
You know, absolutely. Because and I think that backstory is where the world often comes from too.
Yep.
You know,
and the thing about backstory is, in a really good mythology, it unfolds over time.
Right.
Like you don't front load like a mythology, right? Like you reveal these layers over time, and it's brilliant to the people who are experiencing it, but you had it figured out from the back going to the front.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so here's a fun one. This just popped in my head.
Sure.
Indie horror. What are the big monsters, right? We've got Freddy, we've got Michael, we've got zombies, we've got a handful of them.
That's right.
I think there's always been this unwritten thing that everybody wants to be the person who creates the next thing.
Yeah.
Right? The next whatever it's going to be. There have been some great entries that either didn't stick around or didn't make it or didn't make it into the sort of overall canon of it all. What do you think it's going to take? And what do you think that the creative who comes up with it is going to have to think about in order to create the next iconic whatever it is that gets put up there on the Mount Rushmore of monster icons? Like, what's it going to take? How does that person need to think?
Okay.
To create that?
So I think fear is really crucial, right? And I think what that person would have to do is really get into, in my opinion, like, what are we really afraid of? Yeah. Like the brilliance of Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger was that you could not go to sleep.
Right.
Which is a thing you can't avoid. Right. So it's like, I am trying to prevent myself from going to sleep. And as soon as I drift off, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. So that's primal and basic. When you get to something like Saw, right? Saw made you question your own morality.
Right.
Right. And get into the hypocrisies of our value systems. Yeah. So I feel like the next thing, someone's going to have to really be insightful into what are we really afraid of? Yeah. And identify a fear that has not been explored through a contemporary lens. Right.
Okay. I'm with you. You're back to fear. You build everything off fear.
Well, like So here's a thing. So one question that comes up a lot, I read in a lot of these writing books is like, what does your character want?
Right.
Right. And if you know what your character wants, you know what your character is aspiring for, operating for. Like, I like to reverse it and say, what is the thing that your character dreads the most?
Yeah.
Right. What is the one thing that's like, that can't happen? Is it drowning? Is it poverty? Like, on a very basic level, I remember reading this book, I think it was called Screenwriting or something, and it talked about Chinatown with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And it basically said his character was afraid, his character was vain and afraid of looking stupid. Right? And when you watch that film through the lens of knowing those two things, it's entirely different, right? He's vain. So he had to get his nose busted and he had to wear this bandage over his nose and still try to be the man.
Right.
Right. He doesn't want to look stupid. So he's got to constantly navigate around these politicians and magnates who are manipulating the city and its resources. Right. And he's just a gumshoe and he's got to outsmart them. So, that's when you just get down to some basic like human characteristics. But I think when we key into the things we really dread, that's when you're really getting into who somebody is.
Well, it's interesting because you said the very first thing when you said that was, I wrote it down here, is your character afraid of drowning or poverty? Those are two very different ends of the spectrum of fear. One is an actual physical death, and the other is basically a perception.
Right. That's right.
I mean, yes, it's a money thing, but it is a perception. It's a construct.
Yep.
Poverty is how we perceive poverty to be, and we perceive poverty to be something different in different parts of the world. Some places it's not having food. Some places it's not having money. Some places it's not having family.
Yep.
So you're talking about two very different ends of the spectrum of fear. And, how do you determine which end of that spectrum you want to go into with a character? When you're developing a new character, do you say, how do you come to the conclusion that this character is going to be more afraid of tangible physical things, or this character is going to be afraid of more, ethereal sort of constructs? And why would you pick one over the other?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, wow. I mean, that's a really big one. So,
yeah, sorry.
So I'm developing a horror idea now. The artist and I are working on it, right? And basically, I started with a big idea and a character, right? And I knew that I had to create the backstory. And as I was creating the backstory, I realized that there was a certain idea that was rippling through this entire thing and coming up more and more. And I'm like, oh, this is what we're getting to now. And I realized that at the core of this story, it was loss, right? And it was loss of someone important to you at an early age, and then what that does to you, right? So you lose someone important, say when you're 9 years old, but when I meet you, you're 30. What did that event do to you and shape you for the next 21 years, right? But I realized that, okay, loss is at the core of this. It's loss of a person, right? So I'm not going to do this, but let's say hypothetically I did this. Okay, I lost someone at an early age, so I have dedicated my life to finding missing people so that nobody else loses somebody the way I did, right? Okay. Now that's pretty straight line, but that opens up a lot of doors. Like if you dedicate yourself to being a finder because you are subconsciously trying to find the person that you lost 21 years ago and you will never find. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how that starts. And so that's about trying to get back something physical and it has an emotional weight on you. Right?
Right.
Ethereal, I mean, that's just, wow, that's just really trickier. But I think it comes down to, what did you lose, and how did that shape your life going forward?
Right. And how did it affect your perception of loss?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's right.
Because everybody's perception of loss is going to be different as well. So, you know, how does you know, you lost somebody when you were 9. I lost somebody when I was 9. You went on to become a cop. I went on to become, you know, a killer. Right.
Right.
Like it's the perception of that physical fear. That's really fascinating, man. This is it's really cool talking about this stuff with you. I keep saying that, but I'm geeking.
No. I dig it. I love story, man. I love story. I love characters. So like constant, and you know, and I'm lucky enough that I get to work in an industry where we get to explore that again and again and again, because there's never any ending to it. Like, yeah, like this person is different than that person. It's like, okay, let's up the ante. How do we up the ante on this?
Right. Listen, these are all reasons why I'm so excited to be working on this stuff with you, and I consider it, you know, literally one of the highlights of my career is working with you on this stuff.
Well, the team is loving it so far, and we're gonna break some brains with this.
I think so too. I didn't know when we talked last week, you guys were so cool about just saying, you know, just write your process, whatever that is. And I wanted to get it sent over to you yesterday, but some things happened and I lost my entire day. So I got it over today, but that was the process that kind of started with this one. And like I said, I'm dying to know your thoughts, but I'm not going to push you for that. So
you'll find out next week.
But I think from what I'm told, I think I might have written a couple of episodes as opposed to one, based on.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Right? Like more is always better than less, right? Because with more we can scale, but with less it's like, oh, we got to build.
Yeah. Well, and that's my sort of thing. The way I do it is kind of it all. I don't start writing until I get sort of a 360 view of everything from characters to world in my mind. Mm-hmm. And then I can't even really ever determine where that starting point is going to be for me. Yeah. It might be, you know, it might be a scene in a coffee shop. It might be a scene in an operating room. It might be a scene where a character is killing another character, or it might be the end of a story. And it would, right. I work all the way backwards, but it's different for everything. And, you know, I used to put so much overthought into the process before I started actually writing. And then I learned one day to just kind of trust my inner creative.
Yeah.
I just follow it.
Yeah. Like you innately know what no story. So you're like, okay, I can put the foundation down and I can build on that. And I think a bunch of us do. I remember I saw this YouTube interview with screenwriter director Tony Gilroy, you know, the Bourne films, mm-hmm. Michael Clayton, and I think Star Wars Rogue One. And he basically said, like, we've all watched like hundreds of movies and thousands of TV shows. We do innately know story. We've just got to like quiet down the mind and say, okay, let's just start putting something down. Like we're trying to be perfect. When we put it down, it's like, that's not happening. Like, get down a dirty first draft. As far as I'm concerned, all first drafts are dirty, right? Yep. And it's like, okay, this is what we have to work with. Let's start working with it. Let's massage it. Let's get into nuances. Let's get rid of superfluous. Let's add some texture. And before you know it, we have something you're like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm not half bad.
Yeah. And that's what I do too. You know, I tell everybody, whenever you have an idea, write it from front to back. It doesn't matter if it's terrible. It doesn't matter if you hate everything that you're putting down, with the exception of one scene. Write it from front to back, because if you don't write it from front to back, you're going to go down that rabbit hole that so many people go down, where it's, you know, I've had people ask me to help them figure it out. And I say, sure, send me your script when it's done. And they say, well, I keep rewriting the first 10 pages. And I say, well, stop rewriting the first 10
immediately.
and write the next 80 and send it to me. I don't care if it sucks, because it's going to be easier to rewrite once your idea and your framework is there. Because even if you don't know what you're doing, if you write a story from front to back, odds are you have built a whole something, whether it's a world, a character, or it might not be fleshed out. It might not be full of texture. It might not be super rich, but I guarantee you there's a whole snapshot of something that you can then pull out of there and say, well, I at least got this character arc down from front to back. So we'll start there. Or I at least got this war scene, this whole war movie down from front to back. Now let's figure out who's fighting the war and why. What I mean? Like, but yeah, so, what about, and we'll end on this. What advice do you have for folks with regard to that, as opposed to getting stuck in that rewrite loop versus just powering through?
Yeah, my advice to them would be to recognize the truth that writing is rewriting. So aspiring for the perfect first draft is like you're dooming yourself. Like, don't do that. Like, get it down, and then you're going to be rewriting.
Yeah.
Right. That is the journey. You're going to be rewriting. Yep. And it'll never be perfect, but at some point you'll have to stop. You'll have to say, okay, this is the form that it is in, and I now have to be willing to take the criticism to improve it. And I've been in that situation where I've had to totally rewrite scripts.
Sure.
And I'm grumbling in the beginning. But then when I get to the end, I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, my editor was right. This third draft is better than that second draft was.
Right.
And I learned something, and that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny too. My version of what you just said is, as an artist, it'll never be finished, but you got to call it done.
That's it. That's it. Right.
You got to call it done at some point. You got to push that kid out into the world and see if it can swim.
That's it. That's it, man.
Yeah. Joe, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us tonight. People are flipping out about the advice and conversation we've been having. So it's been truly a pleasure and a highlight of my career to speak with you and to work with you.
Well, thanks very much, George. I love it. And looking forward to us really drilling down into some stories.
Yeah, man.
And breaking some brains.
Yeah.
And my namesake, thanks for organizing all of this.
Yeah, Joe Ridgely, producer extraordinaire. There he is.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, he's got the relaxing lavender light going on behind him right now.
It's pretty charismatic. You've got like, that's Friday night lighting. This, I don't know what the hell.
Well, see, this was my I don't want it to stop lighting.
Oh, okay. But eventually you will have to call it done.
That's right. Joe, it's been a true pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing some time with us, man.
Same here. Y'all have a good weekend now.
Thank you. You do the same.
Talk soon.
Oh, man. I was geeking out, brother. I was.
I figured because you weren't popping up.
Popped up once and I was just like, yeah, okay.
What a great guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Ed, what's up?
Oh, I mean, there were some comments and everything, and well, I know this one isn't for me, obviously, but
which one?
This one is, but I don't think this one is. I think this one was for.
Yeah, no, it was for the good Joe,
the talented Joe. That's in the house, but man.
Well, I think that was really a phenomenal time. That was one of the most fun interviews I've ever done. I think as a writer, I love to talk. I mean, speaking with him is we just have some phenomenal conversations. So the fact that he came on and was willing to go into some of that with everybody here really means the world to me. So,
hey, I know that lady.
Hey, yeah. Oh, sure love you, Rebecca. Hey, nerd guy. Yeah, so good deal. Very proud to be working with Joe.
And I kind of feel bad that I didn't bring up the heavy metal 3. We didn't get back to heavy metal.
No, we just started going into it. See, this is
right. And they're
anyway, everybody knows heavy metal. Everybody knows what we're doing. Everybody knows what he's doing. Most of the people watching tonight, I think, know exactly who he is and why he was here. And I really hope everybody enjoyed that conversation. Do you have you don't happen to have like a David Madison poking around anywhere, do you?
I don't know. I like the David Madison without glasses better than the one with glasses, but Okay.
Hey, you had glasses on before. I got to tell you when you. Oh, see, now I feel like you're judging me.
Clark Kent. Nobody knows me. Superman.
How's it going, David?
I'm doing very well. Your show. You know what? There was a time when Elvis was really young, before he became the king of rock and roll, that he opened up for some acts. And tonight I feel like one of those acts that has to close after Elvis played. Great show.
Come on, man. You know we love what you're doing here, and we're proud to have you. And your shows just kick ass every week. They're so much fun. You're so great at talking to everybody, and I think it's really great what you're doing. And I'm proud you're here, man.
Well, thank you, brother.
You got a great show tonight.
Yeah, tonight, oddly enough, John O'Hurley will be joining us, and John was only on the biggest television show of all time, Seinfeld.
Oh, is that all?
Is that all? Yep. Yeah. And played one of the most historic and most beloved characters on that show, Jay Peterman. And he has an amazing career that we'll talk to him about. And then later this evening, G. Tom Mack will be on for all you Lost Boys fans. He's the great creator of the wonderful Lost Boys soundtrack and the smash hit Cry Little Sister. He'll be on. And, of course, Uncle Scott Schiaffo will be in the house.
Yay! We love Scott. What are
Somebody
those,
has to.
What are those earbuds? Are those fancy, like...
No. These are just regular iPod buds.
Oh.
Yeah, here's the wires going behind me.
Oh.
He's too cool for us cats to put him in the front.
No, yeah. I'm trying desperately to look as professional as possible, but we know how sadly I fail at that.
I don't think that's true. Well, listen, I'm excited for your show tonight. I will be watching.
Would you like to join us tonight, or
sure? I'd love to pop on at some point.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I will. Joe will know. My camera will be on, and I will be sitting here, and I'll be ready and available whenever.
Whatever you want. It's your world. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut.
Not at all, man. Not at all. It's our world. And so, again, I hope you have a phenomenal show tonight. And we're going to do the little sign off. And I'll see you in a few minutes.
All righty.
All right. Give me a second to get prepared now, because bad thing is I didn't load the house lights. So I am just going to go with that when we're done. And yeah, exactly. This time, I was too busy geeking out, man. You had too many cool people on. It was just, come on.
It was good. You know what? Actually, you know what we should do real quick is, since I haven't done it yet, I would like to talk about Kat Sitka. We don't have to run the teaser since we're out of time tonight. But Kat Sitka Seafoods is actually the subject of the first feature-length documentary that Romero Pictures Indie Brigade is going to be doing under our label. Issam is a dear friend of mine, a phenomenal businessman out of Alaska, and you need to go check out CatchSitkaSeafoods.com. If Joe can get the house lights loaded, you will see the trailer play between our shows tonight. Otherwise, you can go check it out on our YouTube channel. So that's about it. I got nothing else.
I'm not going to be able to get it loaded in time, unfortunately.
All right. Well,
that was absolutely on me this time. Had everything else loaded up. Come on.
Blame Joe. Go check it out on our YouTube, and you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put it on the Facebook page too, and you can see it. We share it out all the time from all of our pages, so please check it out. I would love to take the time to load it and play it right now, but we are just out of time between shows. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, Joe?
You need to get me some stills of that also. Stills of Catch Sitka.
Yes, absolutely.
No,
if you're listening, get us some stills. Anything else you want to add?
Yes.
Do you have an outro ready to go?
Yeah, I want to add this.
Place an order. Yeah, Sean Smithson did. Yeah, he did. I saw that. Yeah.
All right. Yep, I got the outro here.
Okay.
And
are you good? Everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. What a great show. What fun times. I had a phenomenal night. Love you, Joe. Love you, David. I'll see you in a few minutes. And everybody else, fuck off till next time. To be an indie means we buck a system that doesn't want us. To be a fringe filmmaker means we don't do it for them. We do it for ourselves. To be an outlaw on the fringe means we'll die before we fail. Be an outlaw.
Mr. David Lee Madison.
Whoa,
How are you, sir?
You caught me with my glasses on.
Wow, look at the amount of people tuning in already. Holy cow.
How many do we have?
I'm not saying.
Okay. Don't say.
I'll keep you in suspense. You can watch it afterwards.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Apparently, there are people watching us tonight. By the way, that was a great show that you and George just did.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. And it's going to be a spectacular show coming up. Everybody's really excited.
I hope so. You know, what's funny? I was just thinking about when I was getting ready for this show, our last couple of guests, Joe. And wasn't Tiffany Shepis just awesome?
I love her.
Tiffany Shepis has to be a bigger part of the Indie Brigade because she's awesome. And then I was thinking about how awesome Zach Galligan was and how funny he was, and William Sadler and how brilliant an actor he is. Hello, Lauren. I hope you're well. Hey, William. How you doing, brother? But be that as it may, because tonight we have a whole new cast of characters.
This is true.
Tonight we have from the biggest, I think it's arguably the biggest show of all time, John O'Hurley, who played Jay Peterman on Seinfeld and myriads of other great parts. He'll be joining us in just a few minutes. And then tonight, a little later on, hey, Sean, then a little later on tonight, the great G. Tom Mack, who, of course, did the legendary track from The Lost Boys, Cry Little Sister, will be joining us. And you never know, Uncle Scott Schiaffo might be dropping in too. So you just never know what craziness is going to happen on this show. Hi, Susie. I hope you're well. Do I sound froggy to you tonight, Joe?
Yeah, a little.
I don't know. Getting old. You know, I should have. Hi, David. I'm David. Hi, Brandy. This is Hi, David.
Easily confused.
Yeah, easily confused. Hi, Brandy. Go ahead, say something, Joe. You look like you have something on your mind.
I'm more concerned about you getting froggy.
No. I have a big bottle of blue stuff here that will make sure that I don't get too froggy.
Yeah, we got Lance saying he was a huge part of Seinfeld.
Oh, yes. He was actually, all kidding aside, my two favorite characters on Seinfeld were Jay Peterman and Putty. I thought David Putty was hysterical. And Newman. Who didn't like Newman? Oh, Newman. Hey, what's up, Church? And I'm the pigeon, not the frog. That's a long joke. A really old joke. All right. Before we start, I want to, of course, start with. Well, thank you, Lance. It's very kind of you to say. With my segment on stuff that we should watch while we are all in lockdown and being kept safe from this horrible virus that's out there. I got a suggestion for you guys. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but it's a great film, and it's not one that gets talked about a lot. It's let me get my old man glasses for a minute. I swear the show's going to get better. It's Jake Gyllenhaal and Laura Dern in the film October Sky. Did you see this movie, Joe? October Sky?
Can't say I have.
Okay. October Sky is about a couple of high school kids who decide to build a rocket ship in their backyard with the help of their high school teacher, played by Laura Dern. And when I say it's really one of the most touching and one of the best films of the last 25 years, I wouldn't be kidding. It's a really good film. So if you have a chance, see October Sky.
Wow, that's a lot to say for.
But tonight I have two films to suggest, because I know we have a lot of horror fans on this network, and October Sky is not a horror movie. But for all you horror fans out there, another great hidden gem is a film starring Bill Paxton. Do you know which one I'm going to say, Joe?
I do not.
Okay. Another film that is really a wonderful horror film and just a great movie all around.
Bill Paxton. If it involves vampires, maybe.
No, it's not Near Duck.
Okay.
This is much less known than Near Duck. He made this about 20 years ago, and it's called Frailty. Did you see this movie, Joe?
Nope, I've never even heard of it.
It's Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey.
Wow. Okay.
And it's a great, great horror suspense where Bill Paxton plays a dad, and you have to see it. It's just a really, really good movie.
I'm feeling a little beat up because I'm like the only person who didn't see the first film you mentioned, and everybody was saying it was a great movie. I'm sorry.
Which one? October Sky?
October Sky.
Yeah. October Sky is a great movie. But Joe, you get a pass because you've seen Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
I did.
And anybody who's seen Dark Night of the Scarecrow is aces in my book.
The first thing I said was, "There's Mr. Giggles," or Dr. Giggles.
Yes. You know what? I think that was about maybe 8 or 9 years before he was Dr. Giggles.
Right.
So it's sweet. Another thing I want to pass on to everybody out there. I've sifting through literally hundreds of hours of footage that you guys. I thought, oh yeah, he did direct it. It's a good call, Lance. It's a shame that Bill Paxton passed away so young. He was a very, very talented artist and a great actor and director. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, what was I talking about?
The times we're having right now.
Oh yes, and I was, and I'm going through hundreds and hundreds of hours of tape of people who shared their experiences of these trying times. So please, this is probably my very last time on the show. I'm going to ask if anybody wants to be a part of my new quarantined film, the documentary film about the trying times that we're living in. We're capturing these moments in real time. Please IM me, and I will get you to be a part of this historic film. Joe, do you have by any chance the trailer to run for the crowd?
Before I do that, can I ask you what the absolute deadline is?
I don't think I'm going to take anybody past May 1st because I really want to have everybody who submitted something. I want them to appear in the film. It's very important to me if they took the time to be a part of it. And it's just now becoming the number of people who are involved. The list of people who are involved is absolutely breathtaking. And I want to make sure that everybody involved gets to be a part of the motion picture. So if you want to be involved, please get me your clip by May 1st.
That doesn't mean, contact him the day before and say, okay, I'm going to have something to you by May. Oh.
No, I mean, I will, the Dropbox I'm going to cut it off May 1st. So that will be the last day that you'll be able to upload onto the Dropbox so that I can get your clips to use in the motion picture.
All right, here we go with the trailer.
For me, as I'm sure for everyone, is the not knowing how long it's going to be, not knowing, are you next? Is a loved one next?
I don't know when I can even just hug another human being right now.
But just seeing your wife go by ambulance to the hospital, first time I read it, call 911.
So,
we even got some comments here. David, need any music? That's Scotty Busey. Scotty's great. You got to listen to his band.
Absolutely.
Who else we got? Lauren said that he turned his in days ago. There's a ton of people that are involved right now, and we one of the people that were in the trailer is a well-known person, or a couple of people actually.
Oh yeah, the second voice is the great David Howard Thornton from Terrifier. The first voice is a very famous musician named Lisa Alex, and the third voice is Jason Moulton, the gentleman who we were concerned about his wife being sick on the show a couple episodes back. So, yes, and it's going to be really just a great documentary. It's going to not only be at times sad and emotional, but it's also going to be empowering and funny and light. And it's going to, I'm super excited and humbled that I'm getting to make it. So anybody who's wants to be involved, now is the time.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And Lauren said he thinks you have the best background. Well,
No. I think he thinks he has the best background in his clip for.
Oh, I have the best. I'm sorry, I misread that. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
So Joe,
maybe I need glasses.
You can borrow mine. Is Mr. O'Hurley in the green room yet?
Yeah, he just got there.
Oh, sweet. So without further ado, our first guest tonight is it would be fair to call him an icon and a legend in television and in film, and he's just a great guy, an all-around great guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John O'Hurley.
How are you? Nice to talk with you tonight.
How are you, Mr. O'Hurley?
I'm doing very well. I'm going to give an imprimatur here today that I'm actually enjoying a glass of red wine while I'm talking to you. I had a 6-hour recording session today, and my mind is like mashed potatoes right now.
So I will take it easy on you, I promise.
Yeah, no gotcha questions.
Never do it to you. So the question I have...
And I am wearing pants.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, because nobody on this show wears any pants.
That's right. I can only imagine what yoga pants looks like on your game.
John, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You have to forgive me. Every now and then again, I put my old man glasses on so that I can see who I'm talking to and read comments on the screen. And I'm usually too vain to put them on. But it's important for me to make sure that if anybody asks you a question, I can actually read it. So my first question for you tonight, John, is you were born and raised in, was it Maine, as I recall?
Kittery, Maine, the first town in Maine as you come over the Massachusetts and New Hampshire border.
And where and when did you develop your love of acting and the arts?
Well, I was in I was 3 years old when my earliest memories were of large people standing over me asking the same question, saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" That was it. And I remember thinking that I'm still soiling diapers at the rate of 6 a day, so I don't really have a concrete career objective for them. But it occurred to me that maybe they were asking me because they were looking for a better idea for themselves, but I would answer it by putting my hands on my hips and pointing to the black and white TV that was in the corner of the living room. And I would say, well, I am an actor, so that's what I'm going to be. And the point was that I would watch my shows, which were Romper Room, Mouseketeer Club, Captain Kangaroo. But I would watch those shows religiously, and I would say to myself, I'm supposed to be there. So I knew at a very young age that I had connective tissue to entertainment, and there was nobody in my family that shared what I did or what I aspired to. So it was a lonely progress, but my entire life has really been about connecting the dots to that 3-year-old kid.
Now, when you graduated high school, you went off to, as I recall, reading Providence College. Mm-hmm. Did you study film or acting or stage acting while at Providence?
Well, that's very nice of you to put it that way, but quite frankly, it was I was the only theater graduate my senior year. So consequently, I won the theater award. It was not what I would call a theatrical institution by any means. However, cut to 40 years later, and they have. I gave them a grant along with another person, David Angel, from who passed away on 9/11. Gave a grant to the college, and we built one of the best theaters in the country there now.
Sweet. And do you go back to Providence and talk to the students from time to time?
I go back all the time. For 9 years, I was a member of the board of trustees there. I just gave up the ghost about 6 months ago after my 9-year term had run out. But I still very close to the college. It's a great space, and I love it, and I love the people there. And I had probably one of the great experiences of my life. It was the perfect place for me to go.
That's awesome. Now, before I start asking you, questions about Seinfeld and your amazing career, something as a filmmaker that I always find very interesting. Was there ever a particular filmmaker, be it an executive producer or a director or a television show director, who was giving to you, and somebody who kind of helped you along the way, somebody that you would consider a mentor, or somebody that you learned from?
Not really, and certainly not film or television, and I'll tell you why. I think for the most part, television and film directors have come out of a technical medium. They have not come out of the artistic medium. They didn't study acting. So they don't know how to talk to actors. Now, you take that back to the Broadway stage. Broadway directors know how to talk to actors because it's the embellishment of the live art of acting, that art of the infinite possibility. Not so much in television and film, and I think that's where it falls short many times. I can get a great performance out of an actor on television or film. I can read them the lines and saying, just repeat after me, and record what they say. And I'll get a great performance out of them because I can cut it together because it's an editor's medium. Now, you cut to Broadway. You can't do that. Once the conductor's baton drops or the curtain rises, that's it. There's no going back. So the director has to be able to speak to the actors in a way that they understand, so that everybody's on a common artistic platform that is simpatico with each other. Do you understand what I mean by that?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
The great actor Williams.
I'm sure every film and television director would love to shoot me right now, but it's the truth. They've learned the technical side, but they haven't necessarily learned the artistic side of how to talk to an actor to bring them out to their best performance.
I think a problem with a lot of filmmakers, especially young indie filmmakers, is that they troll a lot. And when I mean troll, I mean in the way of fishing troll. They throw a lot of stuff up on the wall, and they hope that something actually sticks. And I think the better directors, and when you learn to become a better director, which I'm trying every day to become a better director, is you have a specific plan in place for your actors and for your talent, so that the whole piece comes together in a cohesive kind of way, if that makes any kind of sense.
That is.
Yep.
I say that most directors misunderstand performance from the aspect of not learning how to photograph and capture the actor listening, because how the actor listens tells more about what is going on with that character than what they say. What they say is pushing the plot. It is not developing the character. You reveal more in your character on stage or on film by how you listen.
And how you emote.
Well, emoting is listening is stillness. And watching a character be still tells more about a character than listening to them talk.
A few weeks ago, we had the great actor William Sadler on this show. And he told a wonderful story about how he was doing a show in New York City. It wasn't a Broadway show, but it was a show in New York City. And he was in front of a packed house of, I think, over 1,000 people. And right before the curtain raised, he let out a tremendous sneeze, and he pooped his pants. So I can't believe he actually told this story, but it was great. Did you ever have anything that was like horrifically happened to you while you were about to go on stage?
Oh, I'm sure I have. I mean, Loretta Swit and I was notorious for forgetting to zip my fly when I came on stage. I don't know why. It's, I had fast changes and what have you, and it's like you're throwing things on and whatever. It's like the last thing you do is. And Loretta Swit, for Hot Lips Houlihan from the old series MASH, she and I were doing a 2-person play together for maybe 3 months, so we got to know each other pretty darn well. And I would do my fast changes. And I swear to God, 3 or 4 times a week, she would look at me and turn upstage and go, "Your line is down."
Did she ever do it when it was actually up?
Touche.
That would be funny if she did that.
You only get to do that once. Yeah.
Yes. Now, I want to touch on one of your most iconic characters. I'm sure this is one that you get a lot of questions about, and please forgive me, but my audience, of course, would love to hear about your time on Seinfeld, working as the iconic J. Peterman. How did you land that role?
Well, to tell the story, I really have to go back 48 hours earlier from when I started there. And I had one of the funniest shows on television at the time called A Whole New Ball Game, which was preceding Coach on ABC back in the early to mid 90s. And we had one of the most talented comedic casts I've ever been involved in. They were just absolutely wonderful. But the show got canceled on a Wednesday morning, which is the way they all do it. And they called and said, "Don't bother coming to work. We're pulling the plug." So I went out to dinner that night with my manager, crying in my beer, trying to take the cancellation as personally as I possibly could. And while we were at dinner, the Larry David's office had called and said, heard that John's show got canceled. There's this guest star role on Seinfeld this week, which we thought he could chew up and kind of spit out very easily. So have him come over for the read tomorrow and let us know. Well, my manager, first of all, I said, no, I don't want to go guest star on somebody else's series after my show was just canceled. So with my ego still in my teeth, but I woke up the next morning and my manager said, "Oh, just go blow it out of your system and have some fun." And so I said, "You're right, I did." So I went over there and they handed me the J. Peterman catalog, which for those who don't know what it is, go to jpeterman.com and you'll find one of the most unusually written catalogs in the world. It sounds like a Hemingway novel with a bit of a price, a size, and an availability attached to it. But I'd never seen anything like it before, so I had to develop a style for this thing. And as I read through the catalog, I said, well, it sounds a little bit like a 40s radio drama combined with a little bit of a bad Charles Kuralt. And so that's how the voice started to emerge. And when I went down for the table reading with the network and everybody burst out laughing when I opened my mouth. So I felt that I was onto something. But it did instill in something inside of me. It confirmed something that I've always believed, and that is that your imagination is more powerful than your rational mind. I can imagine these characters, and like Peterman, but my rational mind would never conceive of them. So Peterman was really just a subject of my imagination. And I went with it. I had the courage to go with it. And it has, I can't tell you the payback on what that has been. Since that day that I opened my mouth the first time on Seinfeld, I have somehow been paid back every single day since the middle of the 90s, somehow, for that one leap of faith that I took.
Hell, you have your own action figure. How cool is that?
And a couple of bobbleheads too.
There you go.
Well, I in fairness, he really isn't an action figure as much as he is he's holding a cup of coffee and he has Marty Feldman eyes.
Yes, but everyone in that line of dolls has those eyes. It's just the way they were manufactured. You mentioned Larry David earlier, and everybody watches the Larry David show now on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Is Larry David as quirky in real life as he seems on his television shows?
Well, Larry has no, I mean, I'd say this to Larry's face. He has no social, he doesn't care about manners. He just speaks his mind. And, I mean, so you love it or you hate it. He's like fingernails on a chalkboard. I mean, I find him a lovely guy personally, but he's like fingernails on a chalkboard. There's, he doesn't apologize for his, how he feels about things.
He is like that uncle that everybody has that has no filter is probably the best way of putting it.
Uncle Leo on Seinfeld.
There you go. I don't think he was, no, was he Kramer? Was his character?
Oh, he was. I'm just saying, but if you want to talk about uncles, Uncle Leo.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Other than Seinfeld, some great iconic roles, and one that I would be remiss. I have a daughter who's now 16, and she would never talk to me again if I didn't bring up the fact that you were this guy's brother.
You're going to make me put my glasses on? Who is that?
It's Dr. Doofenshmirtz, my friend.
Oh.
Perry the Platypus.
I've got to tell you, I am so grateful to that gang over there at Phineas and Ferb for being part of that entire run. I think that is one of the smartest animated shows I have ever been involved with.
It's funny when you're a parent.
Dan and Sloppy are the two of the smartest men in animation right now, and the most talented. I mean, from not only script writing, but to music composition, to lyric writing, to everything that they do. It's that to me, Phineas and Ferb is Seinfeld for kids.
Absolutely, and you played the main villain's brother, Roger.
Yeah, Roger. I'm the mayor of the town. Yeah.
Yes, you were kind of like Peterman
He's a total sellout.
Yes, but like
he didn't care at all about the people. He didn't care. He was just more things I don't care about.
The show, though, was so clever and so funny. And when you're when you have a child who sits there and watches, when they're hit a certain age, they literally watch TV for hours and hours. And when you could sit there and watch a kids show like Phineas and Ferb with your kids and just be equally as entertained as they are, that really is an amazing piece of work. It's a great show.
I'll tell you, regardless of whether I am or am not on the show, we would play that in the car, and the grandparents would sit there back with our, at the time, 4-year-old son, Will, who's now 13, but he would watch the show and they would watch and scream laughing. It was so funny. And all I could do was hear it, even though I was on it. But I just thought it was some of the most incredibly creative music and just dialogue and just a plot development was so intriguing. It really was. Every episode was fun.
It's funny. You probably never heard anybody compare this before, but I thought the humor in Phineas and Ferb was very reminiscent of the Marx Brothers, because the Marx Brothers had to do stuff, in the 1920s and 30s at a G level, a rated G level, but they made jokes that were so sophisticated that adults laughed at them because they could have gone in either direction. So I thought that was really.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. Yeah, I as I say, I call it the Seinfeld for kids because it was always the gift that was there, and it was always about the craziest little things that were, aggrandized. Everything was played at the height of the stakes.
Yeah. So, Dancing with the Stars, season 1. How did you get involved with that? And let me be the 1 millionth person to say congratulations. You did an awesome job.
Well, it was kind of a funny. It actually, I was the first person they asked, and they took me out to lunch one day in Beverly Hills, and it showed me the show in London, which was this beautiful show called Strictly Come Dancing, and it was a show about live music, a live band, beautiful costumes, beautiful choreography, and it was about competitive ballroom dancing. And I said, I'll be very happy to host it. And they said, no, we want you to do it. And I said, no, I'll host it. They said, no, we want you to do it. And I said, well, what you don't know is I'm the guy that goes to the wedding with a glass of Chardonnay, sits against the wall, and when the music starts, says, go knock yourselves out, Shriners. I was not a dancer at all, even on Broadway. And so when this opportunity came, I said to myself, and once again, I go back to the notion of the imagination. I saw myself doing this. And because of that, I had to say yes. And so I said yes. And I said, now, who else have you got? And they said, well, you're the first person we've asked. But now that we have you, we know we can get Evander Holyfield. I said,
wow.
I said, what? And then all of a sudden it hit me. I said, ABC was just using this piece of midsummer replacement series to give America what they had been asking for more than 20 years, which was the John O'Hurley, Evander Holyfield matchup together on the level playing field, fighting ballroom dancing. For those of you who do not remember, I took them out in the third round with my foxtrot.
You took everybody out because you ultimately were the grand poobah, the winner.
I did some poobahing, yeah. Yeah. Not before it became very controversial that first year.
Yes. You guys had a big dance off, yes, and proceeds for that event actually went to a charity. Am I correct?
You know, that is a fascinating story that just turns into a bigger story as of about 48 hours ago. I'll tell you the story. Dancing with the Stars, I got to kind of write my ticket. And I, in addition to paying us for this dance-off that we did, because of the voting that was so askew and America was in an uproar and had to be redone. Anyway, the network gave us each $125,000, I think, in charitable contributions to give to the charity of our choice. I sent mine to Golfers Against Cancer. That weekend, CBS asked me if I would do it was a good week to pick on women, apparently, but Annika Sorenstam and I did a golf match against each other, and I ended up winning. And that was $350,000. So I had almost $500,000 that I had for charity, and it was matched. So I had almost $1 million to give to the charity. Well, we started 9 different cancer projects with that money. And this is called Golfers Against Cancer. And Golfers Against Cancer gives money to the initial ideas of cancer research. So a researcher has an idea. We give them $25,000, $50,000 so they get the idea up off the ground, but we give it to them immediately rather than waiting 2 years down the line for the government. And if the idea has any merit at all, the drug companies will come in and take it to the next level. So it's and we have no proprietary interest, but it's getting great ideas. It's quicker cures for cancer. Now, we had a lot of money left over. We had about $350,000. And believe it or not, I get a call. Now, this has been quite a while. This has been since 2006. I got a call the other day from the head of the charity saying, we have finally used the remainder of the account that you gave us for the coronavirus and using it for the plasma therapy that they're now doing. And so the $350,000 has gone to MD Anderson at Houston and also to Baylor Medical to spur along and accelerate the use of plasma in trying to find an antiviral that will help in this coronavirus. So I was floored the other day, and I was brought back to that time of Dancing with the Stars, and I think of all the controversy and everything that are. And I think, my goodness, we started 9 cancer projects. 4 of them are still used as cancer regimens today, and now, in this day, it's now being used at MD Anderson and Baylor Medical to to spur on the antiviral possibilities of this plasma medication.
That's a
Great story. Isn't it a great story?
No, really. And you would think after, what was it, 2008, you said, the original?
No, 2000. We did, no, it was 2005. And 2000,
Wow.
we did the series, yeah.
Almost 15 years later.
Isn't that something? There was still a little bit left in the kitty.
Well, that's awesome. A lot of our fans are chiming in. Lance says John O'Hurley saves the world. That was very kind of you. The great Susie says you're a gentleman. The great Scott Schiaffo, who was an actor from the Clerks universe, says John is a gem of a character actor. So you're beloved, Mr. O'Hurley.
Well, thank you.
One other question I wanted to ask you. You know, it's funny. I've always, sometimes in life, I've been blessed to meet a lot of celebrities and even work with some of my favorite all time. But sometimes when you get to talk with somebody who truly inspired you and somebody who you're a big fan of, you get tongue-tied. So please forgive me for being airheaded at times tonight, Mr. O'Hurley, because I'm a big fan. You're the best. I was going to ask you about Family Feud of all things. Mm-hmm. It's an iconic game show. Richard Dawson created an iconic game show host. Did you feel any pressure taking over that show?
Not really. I'm very comfortable in that medium. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I mean, I make no attempts to be like anybody else because I've got my own personality. But I also have my own feelings about what a game show host should be. And I feel very strongly about it. I think a game show host, as a talk show host, should be a patriarch. A man who can walk on stage and convince the audience that he's got their backs. That no matter what happens during the next hour that you're with me, half hour you're with me, whatever, that I got you. Don't worry about it. I've got this show under control. I feel the same way about a leading man on Broadway. If you can walk out and immediately convince the audience that you've got them covered, then you own them. And Family Feud was the type of show where I was basically managing a really fun cocktail party. That's all it was. It's we're not curing science. We're not even reciting Shakespeare on the show. We're basically turning otherwise well-educated people into deer in the headlights. And it was a lot of fun, and I had a great time doing it, and people got to come on there and take it as seriously as they possibly could because it was their family and darn it, their time on television, and they were trying to win as much money as they possibly could. But I will tell you, I had some wonderful times. I'll give you a little example of how crazy it got. Two men walk up to the playoff station there. And the question was this: name a classic film that begins with the letter C. So you would say
Casablanca.
Casablanca. Give me another
one. Yeah. Ooh.
Give me another.
Chariots of Fire.
Chariots of Fire. Good one. Citizen Kane. Caddyshack. They were all up there. Everything was up there. All of a sudden they go. They buzz in. He says, Seabiscuit. You can't make that up. You cannot make that up. Seabiscuit. It just.
Well, I guess it starts with a C. Just
of course,
not the right one. Yeah. Yes. A gentleman writes. William Glenn Russell writes. I seriously think he's the only one that could stand a chance at filling the shoes of the great Alex Trebek as the new host of Jeopardy. Any chance of that happening?
I know my name's in the mix, but the game shows today are different. They're looking for kind of anti-hosts. You know what I mean? They don't. Yes, I look like the classic host that would take over Jeopardy, and because I would remind someone of what Alex was. But I guarantee you that when push comes to shove, they'll be looking for something entirely different. But yes, my name is in the mix. I don't mean to make less of that wonderful compliment, and I do appreciate that. That's very sweet, and I certainly would love to do it. I do have a lot of other projects that are going on right now that are kind of, and I wouldn't say similar, but are game shows things. So I don't know where that would fit in the mix, but if that ever came up, I would certainly be interested.
So, is there anywhere that our fans can find you and your work, any websites you'd like to promote?
Well, I just finished today 6 hours of recording to finish up. As many people know, I host the National Dog Show on Thanksgiving every year, and success begets success. The 32 million people that watch it on Thanksgiving Day have now become 4 million that watch it for the Beverly Hills show. And we just finished the final post-production on that. That will be airing May 17th on NBC. And for the first time, it will be in primetime.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it'll be the first time in primetime. So we'll see what it's like. I have a feeling it'll do quite well. I think especially this period of time when we're looking for anything that is brand new content, this should do well. And anytime you have the remote in your hand and you keep pressing the button and you all of a sudden hit on the face of a big fluffy dog, you are going to hang there for a little bit, I guarantee you. And so,
well, I will tell you, every Thanksgiving in the Madison household, right after the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, your dog show stays on as we consume dinner. It's become a family tradition.
Well, it is now. We're this year on Thanksgiving. This will be 19 years. As I say, 32 million people watch it now, and we're hoping the same thing spills over now on May 17th to the Beverly Hills show, which is kind of a dog show done differently because we do a little more glitz and a little more of the red carpet and having a lot more fun with the dogs.
Yes. No, hold on one second, John. Joe, Mr. Ridgely, are you available?
I am. If you give me half a second, please. Sorry. I've got like a ton of people trying to come in on the show. I apologize. What can I do for you?
Hello, Mr. Ridgely.
Hello.
Mr. O'Hurley, this is Mr. Ridgely, our producer. I was going to introduce you to George C. Romero, the son of the iconic George Romero, who's the grand poobah of the whole network. But is George around by any chance? There he is, Mr.
Hey,
Romero.
How you doing, David?
How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good. Do you have any questions for Mr. O'Hurley?
Just thank you so much for coming on the Brigade tonight, John. It's a real pleasure to have you here. It's an honor. Big fan for a very long time, and it really does my spirit a whole lot of good to hear you and see you tonight. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Poobah. And I'm glad your spirits are high. I can't see what spirits those are that you have gotten so high, but
this is just the ginger ale. This is to help you get off the cigarettes.
You don't have to divulge. You don't have to divulge.
I don't. I generally drink coffee about 14 hours a day, and then I switch to ginger ale and water to flush out the coffee so I can sleep for a couple of hours before starting my coffee ritual.
When I was hosting To Tell the Truth, which was probably my favorite job of all time, we would shoot 10 shows on a weekend. And so the final show on Saturday and on Sunday, I would crack open my wine cellar, and every guest had a full glass of Cabernet that was nothing less than 100 points.
Wow.
Our last shows on Saturday and Sunday were always fun.
You know, we promote that exact philosophy around here at the Indie Brigade. Whatever anybody's thing is, they're more than welcome to indulge. As long as they're here to learn, as long as they're here to be part of something, as long as they're here to continue the spirit of the independent. So again, it means the world to me to have you here tonight. And thank you so much. And David, thank you for bringing me on to introduce me.
Absolutely. John, with that iconic voice, would you be as kind to say the Indie Brigade where independent cinema lives, and so that we could use it on one of our...
Are we ready?
Oh, we are ready.
Again, say it.
The Indie Brigade, where independent cinema lives.
The Indie Brigade, where independent cinema lives. And also the instructions to really good river laundering.
That's beautiful. You just absolutely made my entire year. Thank you so much.
John, thank you, my friend. You're always welcome on Indie Brigade anytime you have anything you want to promote, or if you just want to come and be your charming, wonderful self. Thank you for joining us tonight, John.
Thank you, David. Great to talk with you as always.
I'll talk to you soon.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary, iconic John O'Hurley. And now we have a Peterman bumper, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, that was so cool. What a cool guy.
And your next guest is on.
Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest needs absolutely no introduction in the horror community. Please, George, stay with us if you like. He's the iconic man behind the Lost Boys hit single, Cry Little Sister, and just an amazing, this is truly a rock star. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. G. Tom Mack.
Hey there, all.
Hey, G, how are you, my friend?
I'm good in my isolation.
Where are you tonight? G, the gentleman with the Slayer cap is George C. Romero. He's the iconic filmmaker himself and the son of the late George Romero. And the gentleman with the microphone right in front of his face is Joe Ridgely, our trusty co-host and producer.
It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us tonight.
I met your dad back in the day, and what a lovely bloke he was. By happenstance, I happened to be, in an office space in Santa Monica, and he was in the hallway, and somebody introduced us. But lovely guy.
When was that about? Do you mind me asking? When would that have been?
I'm sorry?
When would that have been?
Oh my God, that would have been 90s, somewhere in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm thinking sometime around.
I was out there with him a lot back then. So.
It's all becoming unblurred as I sit by myself in isolation for so long. I'm starting to remember more things.
Is that a good thing?
Details.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
What's that?
Is that a good thing or
a bad
thing?
It's a good thing.
Good.
Oh, I mean, listen, it's just so interesting just being, coming out of this world of, working on this musical and doing this documentary in the UK that they're doing on me, the BBC and stuff on my career. And then this happens. And I got ill when I was over there, and it was in February, and it wasn't much talked about at that point. But then all of a sudden, I thought, well, maybe I had this thing. And but nobody else was getting sick. There was a crew of like 8 people on the crew for the documentary. But anyway, I survived. I came back here. I tested negative, but it was far later, and I'm just, But there was never a dull moment with what goes on in my head. So isolation isn't that bad.
What are you doing to pass the time?
It's sort of breaking up a bit, mate. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I said, what kind of stuff are you doing to pass the time? Are you being creative at all? Or are you?
Oh, well, yeah. I'm creating, music, rewrites for the musical of notes that I've had to address, and rewrites with the book rather. And, the documentary filmmakers, they would cover a lot of stuff. So they're sending me edits of what they've done and, what have you. But yeah, it's a mishmash. I got very involved in the frontliner thing early on because that was something I wanted to really, I have mates that are frontliners, that are first responders. And, before all this started, I know what they do. And it's incredible the job that they're up against, even when you don't have a pandemic like this. But this job, nobody knows. And so I've taken it upon myself with one of my producers of the musical, Renee, and we've just sort of formed this bit of a coalition to, bring more awareness to and also provide funding. and I've created a music video that we're going to be launching. I put it up on my own site, but a couple of videos actually that we were able to do. Unbelievable. I had no idea how remote would be, and we've been able to do a lot that way. You learn to deal with what you have, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Well, listen, it is a pleasure. It is an honor to meet you tonight, and I thank you so much for sharing some time. I'm going to jump out of here and let you and David talk, because that's what people tuned in to watch.
Thank you for stopping in, George. I'll talk to you in a bit, pal.
Thank you.
So, G,
nice to meet you.
Tell
George.
us about, from what I understand,
Hey,
you're working on a stage version of a Lost Boys musical that would benefit first responders.
Well, I don't know well, first of all, it is part. I don't know how that was. One thing I can tell you is that when this thing goes up, hopefully, when people back to the theaters, we're looking 2022, but it's not going to be forgotten, So what we're trying to create right now is just developing a fund for the first responders and the likes of the frontliners. And that's sort of in the making of what we've been doing over the past 2 to 3 weeks. So it's very early on. Every day a conversation about this. So that keeps me quite busy. And but yeah, I think, we had talks about a portion of money from musical, once it does start to go on stage, if you will, that we would put aside money for those frontliners and their families and what have you.
That's an incredibly generous and kind thing to do, and I'm not surprised, because that's the kind of guy you are. I know you're extremely busy, and
well,
I'm sorry, were you going to say something, G?
I was just going to say, yeah. Well, what else is there in life? You have to take care of people. I mean, that's just the way I've rolled all my life. Thank God, from 2 really great parents who were about that.
Well, I want to tell the audience a story about what kind of guy G is. I had done a convention, maybe, I don't know, it must have been 12 years ago now. And G was doing the convention too, and he was there with all the Lost Boys. And at the time, my daughter was 5 years old and was the biggest G. Tom Mac fan. And I'm not kidding. She would literally sing Cry Little Sister and some of your other songs off your records all the time to me. And I don't know if you remember this, G, but my daughter and I walked up to your table, and the little 5-year-old, she just turned 5, started singing your songs to you. And you got a big smile on your face, and you gave her a signed copy of your CD. And later that night, G. Tom was performing to a jam-packed arena. I think there was at least 1,000 people in the arena. And he arranged for my daughter to be right in the front row to watch him. So that's the kind of guy G. Tom is. And I'll always thank you for that. You're unbelievably kind, G.
I actually remember that. I totally remember that. And I think it may have been one of the first conventions I ever did. That was some time ago, if I recall. So you kind of remember things like that. After a while, they all become kind of a bit of a blur. But, I think that's obviously how we met. But that was what a great way to meet. So thank you for that, and my pleasure, honestly.
Yes, I think it's
to be able to sing that song right in front of me.
It was like 12.
Oh, wow, what a sweet voice singing this very gothic song.
Can you believe that little girl is preparing to go to Harvard now? So that's how much time has gone by. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's what, she's 16 or something?
Yeah, 16. Yep. Time flies. So I know you're very pressed for time.
It sure does.
Can you just give us a quick rundown of how you got involved with writing the hit song Cry Little Sister for the Lost Boys, for all your Lost Boys fans watching tonight?
Yeah, I'm having a bit of problem. You're kind of cutting in and out, mate.
Oh,
So
I was
that's
asking you, G, how did you get involved with writing the hit song for the Lost Boys?
How did I get how did I end up writing that song for that?
Yeah,
movie?
how did you get involved? How did how did you get involved with writing the hit song for The Lost Boys?
The musical or the movie, right?
The movie, yeah.
Yeah, the musical obviously was my idea, but the movie was basically Joel Schumacher being a fan of my work, and he rang me up one time asking me if I'd write the theme song to his movie. He was doing this vampire movie, and they were shooting it, and he couldn't really show me anything. So he said, "What if I send you a script and you take a look at it and see, if you come up with some inspiration for it?" He said, "I'd really love you to write a theme song for this film." And so I had gotten the script. I was living in New York at the time and read it, and was one night, and I was just blown away by it. And the next morning I got up, went to my piano, and just was banging away and came up with some ideas, and then went up to my own in the mid-30s on 7th and 8th Avenue, and just started working on it and had it finished within a couple of hours' time, and just started laying down a track and just moved so quickly. And it was just, there's a bigger story to this, but I had no idea. I had an idea what the film looked like in my head, but once I said, when he rang me back a few days later and just said, "I can't believe it. You've nailed this. You haven't seen a piece of footage and you've nailed my movie." And I'm going, "Really?" And so when I went out to work with him on placing the song in the film and going through that process, and when I watched the movie, completely different in my head, but it was a great movie. And, I don't know if I would have written Cried Little Sister had I actually seen the film. It just was something that was just inspirational from reading what my images of what the film was to be. So, but yeah, it worked out.
Well, that's awesome. Well, G, is there anything that you wish to share with our audience tonight? Any appearances, any upcoming projects or gigs that you would like to let everybody know about?
I'm sorry, I missed so much of what you said. I hope I'm not cutting out am I coming through clearly?
No, we have a very bad connection. I was just asking, is there any place where your fans can find you, or any upcoming gigs or projects that you would like to discuss?
Well, obviously you can come on Facebook and, gtommac.com. There's always information there. And, Instagram. And everything's gtommac, Twitter, I'm kind of everywhere.
Oh, awesome. Well,
I don't see you anymore, Dave. There you go.
Well, G, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope that you will actually come on the show again when we actually can have a better link. We're kind of choppy tonight. I think there's an enormous amount of traffic on the internet. But thank you so much for being on my show, my friend. And I hope to talk to you and see you soon.
Well, thank you, Dave.
Be well, G.
That's unfortunate, because it was cool.
Yeah, I was trying desperately to interview him, but it was a very poor connection. But I apologize to everybody watching. I promise everybody who tuned in tonight to see the wonderful G. Tom Mac, I will have him on again when we have a better connection. So, Mr. Ridgely.
I am here.
Is Uncle Scott around by any chance?
Who is he again?
I don't know. Just some guy who eats all the bagels in the green room. There he is.
You're referring to special bagels, right?
Yeah, they CBD bagels, man.
How are you, brother?
I'm good. How are you, brother?
How was the show tonight?
Sweet. Wow. Talk about two really powerful artists and performers in their own right.
I was having a hard time hearing G, sadly. We had a very bad connection. But everybody out there, go seek out G. Tom's music, not only his hit songs from The Lost Boys, but his other records. Are you breaking stuff again, Scott?
Yeah, I'm just wreaking havoc up in this piece.
What's funny? John O'Hurley has such a commanding presence. It's almost kind of intimidating to talk to him.
he owned every second he was on camera in the Seinfeld series, which makes it so memorable and iconic. And that's just to be revered, you know, from another character actor standpoint.
It's funny because I don't know what the hell I was going to say. He is not only, somebody brought up that he should be the next Alex Trebek, and I never really occurred to me, but he would be perfect.
Oh, you could totally see that. You could totally.
Wouldn't he be perfect, Joe?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I could, like, the commanding voice, the well dressed, the highly educated. I mean, if there's a way to get a rally started to get Mr. O'Hurley that job, I'm going to push for that.
Yeah, he's really a dynamic performer.
So how are you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. I'm really doing good. We're hanging in here out in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, and this is trying for everybody I know. In New Jersey this week had a rough week. Actually, our numbers are not getting that much better with the deaths and new cases of corona, and it's a little daunting. But we just got to all stay strong, you know.
I hear you. Everybody's saying Scott Schiaffra rules. Love you, brother. Hey, Scott. Scotty sounds toasted. Scotty doesn't sound toasted.
Woo! No, I'm not toasted. It's just at the end by this hour of the night, after being up all day, and I did a lot of talking today. I was working on some extra material for the spoken word book, so my voice is a little shot tonight.
Yes, and you have to get me your footage for the quarantine movie, brother. I want you to be a part of it.
Yeah, you know, well, here's the bottom line with that. I got to be honest. It's got nothing to do with not wanting to be involved. I haven't really zeroed in on how I feel about the whole thing in general, and I want to be able to get my thoughts succinct and get it on video for you, and that hasn't happened just yet, and for that I apologize.
Well,
I'm sorry. I just want Scott to read this one.
Libby, we love you.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you're not interrupting, Joe. You're always welcome. And I assure you, when she says she loves you guys, she means Scott and Joe, because Libby just can't stand me, apparently. Go, Scotty, go.
Dang. I published a video earlier tonight playing my Nashville 12-string guitar, which isn't a 12-string. It's a 6-string tuned like a 12-string. And then it had a quick promotional clip from the Audible Vadamusnus release that's hopefully going to be coming sometime soon. And I was very excited about that. I finally got that post up tonight. So that might be what that's about. But thank you all so much for the support. It means the world to me.
When are you going to perform musically on my show? I've been asking you forever.
Oh my gosh, right now. No.
No. Where's the 12 string you were just talking about?
Well, that's actually it behind me. It's what it is. It's an old trick. It's called Nashville tuning. And in Nashville, they call it LA tuning. What it is it's the upper octave strings of a 12 string, but just the 6 strings. So when you blend the traditional 6 string and that guitar, you get this big sound like a 12 string, but it's more articulate. And it was a trick that was used on all of Tom Petty's records. And whenever you hear a big booming 12 string on a record, chances are that's the trick they used. It's a pretty cool thing. And when you play it on its own, it comes off, it's almost like a harp-like guitar. It's really cool.
You know, I want you guys to be the very first 2 people to know this. Sometime, and I think in the next 4 episodes of the end of the night, within the next 4 episodes of the end of the night, we are going to have a rock and roll star who sold over 100 million records on this episode, on this show. So, Scotty, I would love for you to be a part of talking to this cat when we have him on.
Oh,
yeah, I'm grinning ear to ear because I'm hoping it's who I think it is.
It probably is.
With that kind of intro, I think it is who we think it is. and that is pretty exciting.
Yes, and we're just working out the details because he's one of the biggest. Like, he's one of those people that you say his name and 99 out of 100 people know exactly who it is. And when you're dealing with people on that level, you kind of got to give them their space and let them pick when they want to come on. But he agreed to come on, so that's all cool. And of course, I'd love to have you on. Maybe you guys can jam a little together. That'd be awesome.
Oh my gosh, that seems a little daunting, but maybe he'll play harp and I'll play some blues guitar.
There you go.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure there. I just jam with one of the biggest music names of the last 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah. And what can I tell you? It's the curse of, being on the end of the night. You never know who's going to show up.
Like me.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm going to show up, to be honest with you.
Well, you can't get rid of me. I'm always loitering in the green room. So.
Yes. Scott, do you have anything you want to promote tonight? Because I know poor Joe always wants this show to end at midnight, and you and I always babble on past midnight. So is there anything you want to promote or say before we wrap this puppy up?
Actually, my good friends Marilyn Gigliotti and Brian O'Halloran, who are Dante and Veronica, respectively, from the cast of Clerks, they've got a very wicked online convention happening, Mainframe Comic-Con online. You can find it anywhere on any of our Facebooks. We've been promoting it. I'm not part of it, but I promote my friends all the time, and I'm sure that's going to be super cool. And I'm waiting on my Audible book to drop. It takes a while for Audible to process your files, but it's looking good, and I'm excited about that. And just keep up with my social media. I appreciate it very much. And that's probably it for me tonight.
Let me ask you something, Scott. What was it? Brian who? I'm not familiar with those people.
Brian O'Halloran from Clerks. He played Dante.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
That's that kid with the new podcast.
Right. Yeah, the O'Halloran. Boy, you guys are it's a tough room. It's a tough room.
It's a joke, Mr. Schiaffo.
I know.
It definitely is a joke.
We love him dearly. But they have a very cool, as Romero started the trend, which we know, with the online.
Well, not for nothing, which a lot of people don't know, is that George was involved with that con, and he knew that it was the Red Cross was involved, and he got involved, and he actually did something for them today, that particular con.
Oh, the
sweet.
mainframe people. Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Yeah. And Marilyn Gigliotti and Brian O'Halloran are both unbelievably talented and sweet individuals and dear friends of mine, and I hope they have a great time tomorrow.
And I think they also have the lovely and everybody loves Ming, kind of like everybody loves Raymond. Everybody loves Ming, and I know Ming is part of that too. Ming Chen from Comic Book Man.
I got to hang out with him in West Palm. It was a blast.
Well, Mr. Schiaffo, as always, it was wonderful to see you. I will call you on the phone during the week, and we will talk stupid crap for hours like we usually do. Be well, my friend.
You too. Thank you, guys. Good seeing you. Have a great weekend, man.
And
Hope to see you on the show Friday.
You will be performing live on the show.
Now that's really daunting, but I'll get ready for that. I'll have to order extra Uncle Scott meds.
Good night, Uncle Scott.
Good night. Always a pleasure to have Scott.
Well, there you go, Joe. Another one in the books. What show is this? Do you know? Is this 7, 6, 7, 8? What?
I just started labeling him as your latest show.
I think we're up to like 7 or 8.
I think you're probably right.
Now, if only we could get some cool guests on this show, we'd be in good shape.
It'll never happen.
Never happen. Nobody will ever wind up on this show. All right. I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. I want to thank the extremely talented and wonderful John O'Hurley. He was unbelievably kind and generous on our show tonight, and just a fountain of information. I want to thank the wonderful G. Tom Mack, who from The Lost Boys and the great hit Cry Little Sister. And of course, I want to thank Uncle Scott, who's just a regular on our show, a dear friend, a funny guy. And of course, I want to thank you, Joe, because if none of this happens without you, you're the you're like the wizard. You're Oz. You're the guy who's behind the curtain, pulling all the strings, making all of this happen. And it doesn't happen if you're not there to do this. Thank you, Lance. So with that being said, I wish everybody a great week. Be safe, be kind to each other, and remember, no man is a failure who has friends. I got it right this week, Joe. It's amazing.
You good?
I'm good. Be well, everybody. That's all I was saying.